Can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
Good? All right. Well, I have the honor to be here on the first stream of Perquimanslive with Councilman Quentin Jackson, who is running for Town Council once again. And I want to thank you for making time in your schedule to come here and sit down and talk with us about where your positions are. To let everyone know in advance, I did provide questions to all the candidates that are going to sit down so they had a chance to prepare. In addition, as we talk, we may come up with additional questions that will be beneficial to our discussion.
And I didn't read any of the questions, by the way, because
You didn't do your homework.
well, no, it wasn't. I didn't do my homework, but I believe that when you read questions, you have time to say what you're gonna say. You know, you have time to prepare, and that shouldn't be what politics is about. What it should be about is if you know the issues, if you know the people, any question you ask me, I should be able to answer honestly.
Well,
Right?
as a sitting council member, you are more privy to a lot of this information than the people who are running against you.
Not it's public record. Everything we do is public record.
Well,
I mean,
some of it is opinion on things. So,
Absolutely.
okay. So tell me why you want to run for town council again.
Well, I think in the last 4 years I've been doing a great job.
Okay.
And I think that the adversities facing Hertford now with the current council we have needs somebody that's not going to just go along to get along. If you look at what the two of the candidates are running to get, they're running to say, hey, we want to help the town council. And of course you want to help the town council. Every citizen should want to help the town council. We represent them. But if you're just wanting to go with the current administration and that's what you're running with the majority of the three is doing, that's a very bad look for the town. Because if politics was all about everybody agreeing, right, it would be no different parties.
Okay. But don't you think sometimes the function in the town council, it's good to have debate. It's good for our nation to have debate.
Absolutely.
But there are different ways that we can approach it.
Well, it's a lot of different ways that we can approach debate. Some people will disagree with the way I go about debating, and a lot of my debating is procedural. If you look right now, the current age of the sitting council is 4 years, 3 years, because it hasn't been 4 years yet.
Okay.
Meaning that all of us, I was newly elected, right? 4-year term is equivalent to my political career. You have the other two that's only been elected now going on 2 years, and that's equivalent, if you add it all together, to 6 years of political experience running the town.
Okay, which is quite different than, because we're newbies in the community.
Yes,
All right, we have roughly 3 months worth of experience in Hertford. I did do some background before I moved here. The previous town councils actually were very experienced, may be the way to frame it. Okay, I don't want to call them old, though they were experienced. But what's your background to say, listen, this is the reason why I'm running, this is the reason why I want to serve the people and represent the people of Hertford?
Well, if you ask me, why should people vote for me, if that's your question?
Roundabout.
Yeah, well, I tell people, look at my voting record. Look at the issues that brought forth. The previous mayor, which was Horace Reed, had 18 years of experience before he ran for mayor. Now, we know that's 4-year terms, but he was a sitting council member. He was a previous mayor pro tem. Before him, you had Sid Illy, who had 12 years and then became a council member who served over 20 years on the city council. I mean, that was a lot of experience, along with Ann White, Carlton Davenport. These are people who had years, and I was able to experience that my first 2 years about the manner, tenure, how politics work to get involved. Now, before I got involved, we have state leagues, federal leagues. Hertford was absent. We had a vote, we paid to vote, and we was absent in all these things. I've excelled to lead, right, 3 of those organizations in the first 2 years. That was unheard of. But I'll show my colleagues, and this isn't you go up there and, hey, I want to do it. You're voted in by every person in the state of North Carolina, every municipal elected official in the state of North Carolina. So as it sits, last year I was up to run for first vice president of the League of Municipalities. That is, of every elected official for the state of North Carolina, municipal official. You don't make this just overnight. I work hard, I go out, and I represent Hertford well. Governor's Mansion, meeting with the president twice, both presidents, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I sat down at the table with them, and I was able to do that from a small town of Hertford, right here in our rural areas. When you look at, I fought for the little man. The first 3 years, we had no electric water hikes. We had water or sewer, no hikes. We talk about last year they raised it some 35%, unheard of 2 months before budget time. Now we're in a crisis. I know you're gonna ask this.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, I know that's what you will ask. But I say, how do you move to a town that's got a 47% poverty rate, 47%, and then not think about the little man?
We moved from a town that is very representative of the dynamics that we have in Hertford.
Right.
We have a high poverty rate. We have challenges facing the community. And that part didn't scare me off moving to Hertford.
Absolutely.
Okay? Because with the proper leadership, with the proper investment of time and effort, I think any community, and I've said this countless times, every single person I've met in Hertford, with the exception of one, has been very welcoming for us, both my wife and myself, into the community. And we've had discussions off camera, just the one, and it was a very pleasant discussion. I think we probably align slightly different politically, but that doesn't mean I can't appreciate what you have to say or vice versa. So how would you measure, okay, you're coming off your first 4 years, but going into your next 4 years, if you were reelected, how are you going to, what's the metric to say Councilman Jackson was truly successful in his seat?
Well, I will say, look at my record, I was truly successful. One of my downsides that I hate was we were the first council in 4 years to have a fully staffed police department. That was major. To get a stable police chief in, that was major. Knowing that when I got into town hall, just the diversity that was put in town hall. I mean, you had one person of color, one minority working in City Hall. This was in 350 years, you had one.
Okay.
Now if you go to City Hall, you look at diversity. These are things that people ask.
So it's more reflective of how our true community
how
is.
our true community looks like. You look at Public Works. Public Works, we had our first African American Public Works director, had our first African American city clerk, had our first ever African American city manager. I mean, if you just look at the diversity, and people say that we can't see black and white, but when America is streaming systemic racism and it can't happen, what does it say about Hertford that hey, Hertford has done this? What does it say about our community to turn around and say and understand that we can look above color truly if that's what the other party want? I believe, and I firmly know in America, racism will never die completely. It will never die completely.
And I don't want to get too off topic of the town council, but if we start to essentially break everything into racism,
right?
Okay, it's for both parties,
right?
Okay, we have to say that you feel that some opportunities you weren't able to achieve because there was a blockade there, maybe from a system. And, at the same point, occasionally, someone may feel, maybe, I won't say me, because I don't know enough about Hertford, okay, that a person put in a certain position was put into position, not necessarily always because of their aptitude. Okay, all right. And that's not a fair judgment. Okay, and that's so that let's.
As an African American, though, I can't be a racist. As an African American, I can't be racist.
But because I'm white, I can be.
You can absolutely.
Okay. How does that seem fair in an equal America?
Well, I'll tell you how does that seem fair, because African Americans in America don't own nothing. We don't own the majority of the land. We don't have the key in decision makings. I mean, if you look at how we have been withheld for so long, it's impossible for me to come in and have systemic racism when we make up 14% of America.
Okay,
14%, right?
Which is a fantastic number. But I mean that if you think about it, it's a larger percentage than a lot of other races that we have within the country.
Absolutely, but we built America, right?
Oh. If someone is hearing a dog bark in the background, that's okay. I just want to let you know they're isolated, but they occasionally chime in. But
let me hit on this, and
sure.
I do want to hit on this because I don't want to make it like it's this topic or issue. It's merely about race for me, right? I really don't want to make it merely about race, but I do want to spotlight race because it's a hot debate in America right now. It's a hot debate in Hertford right now. When you look at property ownership, when you look at business ownership, even in our downtown, how many people of color actually, own business minorities
Okay.
downtown. When you look at the disparities, you cannot ignore the people of color when you look at disparities. So when I say these things, I don't say these things and say, hey, I'm generalizing Chicago, I'm generalizing
You're
Los
talking about
Angeles.
the town of
I'm
Hertford.
talking about the town of
Okay,
Hertford.
and to be fair, and I've walked down this downtown. Okay, I have driven through other parts of the community. To be fair, yes, there is an equity divide, and that's
Absolutely.
why in my point, and what I've shared with you in the past, I believe the first level of being really invested in your community is being able to have the opportunity towards home ownership, and what can we do to make that opportunity. And clearly, there's a price point. It has to be a price that you can afford a home. And you have to have employment, gainful resources of employment, which, regardless of whether they come from a Fortune 500 company or they come from the little guy running a mom and pop shop downtown, we have to have the opportunity for someone to earn an income.
Well, let's talk about it, okay? When I got employed on the town of Hertford, Electric Cities did a study. And as the leading municipality, because Windfall is in Perquimanslive County, as the leading municipality, the town of Hertford was the 11th best employment in the town of Hertford. We was behind Woodard's Pharmacy. Our average street worker, rain, sleet, snow, or hail, was making $19,000 a year. And they was the ones that was responsible for cleaning your streets every day, for making sure when the storm is out that debris is getting passed every day. Now the average street worker in the town of Hertford makes $26,000 to $27,000. I would just like to say,
It's a more of a livable wage, but it's still not where it probably
it's not
could be.
where we could be, and we did a pay study. Now I want to say this: this isn't an achievement that Quentin Jackson can take credit for, because even though I may lead the vote, even though I may be the one to put the topic of discussion up, we're a council. So good and bad, when the decision is made and the level is made, it's a council decision. Now, I will say that I was a lot more influential in the previous council than this council, because, this council feels they have all the answers and we're going to do it this way. If you look at most of the vote, it's 3-2. Every time, it's 3-2.
Occasionally you have something that might be 4-1 or 5-0, but, I don't know what goes on in private, in closed sessions versus, okay. I don't want to dwell on past.
Okay.
Okay. I want to be fair to you and to the other candidates. We all have skeletons that probably exist in our closet, and I've told people countless times, I said, thankful I didn't have social media when, at the point I was in high school and in college. But what do we learn from our past? Without touching those topics, what have you learned from past events that possibly have? How would you deal with the same situation today as in the past, and how would you be better and to avoid those situations?
Well, let me tell you this, and make no mistake about it. I'm the youngest ever elected official for the town of Hertford.
Okay.
Youngest ever. I was elected at 31 years old, and that's bad. I would like to see people 20 years old get involved.
To quote Ronald Reagan, I'm not going to allow your youth and experience to judge people's.
Absolutely, and I will say that I'm a product of Hertford. On the council right now, I'm the only person that's graduated, been through Perquimanslive County school system that's been here. Aside from my time away in the military and in the Army, I've been here in Hertford.
Right.
So when you talk about my past, whether it be criminal record or whatever, it's a product of Hertford. When you go outside, right, we can't go to the bowling alley. We can't go to the skating rink. It wasn't until I was a sophomore in high school that we actually got basketball courts in Hertford.
Okay.
And during that time, when I was a sophomore, we then had 8 baseball fields. We then had a volleyball court. I don't want people to take this away like, that people, kids just hanging around. Well, what are you going to do for them? And they will say, well, the waterfront plan is going to do it. But the dynamics of where I come from, nothing in that waterfront plan is going to have anything for me to do.
Well, let's. Let me.
We're talking about background, so I don't want you to. I don't want.
Okay.
I don't want to
Go
mingle
ahead.
the two. But
And we'll get into it.
And I don't want to mingle the two. When you talk about just backgrounds on council, you talk about, hey, I'm open to talk about some of the bad negatives that went on there. When you talk about hitting Sid Italy, right? You talk about a guy that spit in somebody's face. Openly admit, when asked in court, did you spit in Quentin Jackson's face? He said, I don't know. I don't recall.
Okay,
I can't.
but as I
but-
said, I don't want to
Well,
relitigate the past.
Well, I don't want to relitigate it, but it's very important because sometimes only half the story get told. You hear people, oh, you just went up and you just did this. Well, no, look at the actual records. I want people to be transparent. I like to be a transparent person. When you talk about city council yelling, point of order, everybody wants to say point of order. Have you ever looked at C-SPAN? Have you ever looked at Congress? I mean, that's the number one leading thing.
Well, I would not exactly use members of Congress presently as a role model.
Well,
Okay,
but
just saying,
it's
maybe
politics.
State House, maybe the State House.
Well,
I'm not quite. I'm familiar with Annapolis State House and how things operated. Not quite as much with North Carolina.
Well, if you look at last year during the budget process, if you look at that, it was women, white and black, that had to stand up when they tried to get people on a holiday. They tried to get in to push the vote to pass the budget to the Senate. Luckily, it didn't go through because the Senate didn't take it up. But when you look at even State House, Democrats are fighting every day. We're in the minority, right? And so it's not necessarily that, hey, everybody's acting on one accord. It's because you're not looking. I had the number one thing I heard from citizens, right? Because when you bring the data to them, they can't refute. You cannot refute data. This water and sewer plant started years ago. These big loans were taken out years ago.
Right.
This isn't something that just happened because Quentin Jackson got elected. And when I got elected, they said, "Oh, the town is going to burn down." Right?
And I'll tell you, as a sidebar, where we came from, our county had a water sewer issue.
Right.
It cost a friend of mine his county commissioner position because he voted, listen, we're going to have to go increase the rates, but it was building for the future. We have a different situation in Hertford, which we're going to actually drill down into.
Right.
But based upon the things that have happened in the past, if confronted with similar situations today, are you going to zig where you previously zagged?
Well, I'm going to tell you this, right? I don't scratch my head unless it itches, and I don't dance unless I hear music, right? You can't use your fist in every situation. I understand that.
Okay.
But I understand that the America we're living in now, you're getting killed in churches, you're getting shot in the airports, you're getting shot at football games. I don't know what any citizen would do, and I'll tell you that the council had complaints. Check it out in 2019. The council had complaints of citizens bringing concealed weapons into the municipal building. Into our meeting rooms. The council then passed and said, hey, we're going to get a metal detector through the door, which 90% of municipalities are doing that.
Right.
Due to concealed weapons carry or whatever. So any given day, as me being Quentin Jackson, I am very fearful of what somebody may do. I mean, if you look at the previous video, the last issue I had with the citizen, right? When it came down, I never left where it said government only for a specific reason. But they was able to get. The attorney had to move out the way. The clerk had to move out the way. And it wasn't because Quentin Jackson, because I'm facing the crowd. But you never know what a person may have on them. Yes, we have a sheriff there, but once that shot is fired, hey, it's a little too late at anybody. And when you talk about the hostility, right? The hostility of judge the records, what people should be mad at, they're absolutely not mad at.
But the judge of the records is based upon perception.
Absolutely.
Okay, and
but if
there's a perception that this guy's exactly. If
right.
we can jab a little bit, we know we can light that burner up and make him react.
Well, I'm not going to put my hands on anybody first, and I live off of, if you say reaction. This is the third house I've been in Front Street. This is this Church Street, Front Street. This is third house. And my first would be I went in Jerry Memphis' house when he got elected, in Ashley Hodges' house. I've been there seven times. I will say, growing up as a little kid, Ernie Brown, to her tribute, when Halloween came around, this was a part of town we knew by birth.
Right.
You don't go in. Ernie Brown, when she came to town, we had trunk or treat downtown, and she said, hey, y'all make sure y'all come on Front Street. Y'all make sure y'all come on Church Street. And people that look like me said, where's that? Right?
But that's not the world we should be living in.
Well, it's not, but it's reality. I know, we can say all the right things right here and say, hey, racism don't exist. Hey, we can't see color. Hey, we should get past that. But that's not the reality.
But
I agree. On the internet, go check the study. Hertford was voted number 3 for the KKK town in membership. Now, how was that verified? Somebody went undercover. They did the statistic and got the membership data. So when you look at that was the town of Hertford. That was not for Queens County. Let's not get that refuted, right? And so when you look around, and I look around at the town I see after being born and raised here, how much has really changed?
Well, also, I've talked to some people some of my neighbors.
Right.
They're like, well, I can't help campaign for so and so because I'm not welcome in that part of town. Our community has built some walls up that we need to collectively reach over. Do you agree with that?
Well, I can't agree with that statement.
Okay.
Because you had a group of preachers, white and black, come down King Street. You had the church on the corner constantly bring food in the neighborhood. Nobody had been attacked.
Would you say that certain individuals probably are less welcome in certain parts of town?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I would say that black individuals are more so unwelcoming. I've looked at Jared Memlick last year, knocked on every door in town. He was welcome in every house. He'll tell you, every house he was welcome and he was taught. I did it. I was met with guns. I was met with, you got 3 seconds to get off my porch. I was met, even if you don't like a political candidate's stance, it's a certain way that you should go about doing things. And, when you talk about the divide, my people, African Americans, we do not have a history of being violent people. We don't. So you came to Hertford, right? And
yeah.
we had the conversation, and you said, hey, everybody was welcome, and I've been downtown, and I've been here and there, but I asked you, have you really? That doesn't make up in Hertford.
I don't know anyone over on that section of town. I'm not running for office to knock doors.
Well, you're not. But what I'm saying is, as I just spoke to you about, right?
Right.
When you come to Hertford, you met the people here, the neighbors, welcome, that's our community. But when you say, hey, truly, I want to get involved, why don't go and see for yourself? Why not go and knock on those doors? You'll probably find you a church home, right? And finding a church home, you want to be involved in Hertford. Clearly, you're doing this because you want to be involved. But clearly, why not knock on those doors? Why not meet some true people? Because you mean, hey, this is so-and-so. Hey, this is so-and-so. Hey, this is that. Well, how about, let's truly meet the people.
Well, how about we do this? Because you know a lot of the people.
Well, I try to know all people,
okay.
black and white.
But the community, which I'm not as familiar with.
Right.
Okay. How about after we get off camera at some point? Okay.
Right.
Not until after. Let's get through the election.
Absolutely.
Okay. But let's get together. Let's introduce me to
black people. Say black people. People of color.
Okay. Okay. Black people.
Well, let's
and don't think I'm saying this as being racist. It's the way the town has socially divided. Okay. I don't go over there because for me to leave town, I shoot down Church Street.
Right.
Okay. Or I shoot Grub Street when I go to head north. I normally don't zigzag through other parts of town, so I have no problem. But I would like to know more of my neighbors.
Well, and that's what I would tell you. But see, what got me just in that statement, right? In that statement, when you say that, I want to use politics with that, right? So many of the people here don't know the people on that side. We know the tracks. So shouldn't our city council, our town council, shouldn't it be made up of that divide? That's my point.
But currently we have, out of the town council candidates running.
Yes.
We have 5 which are black, African American.
We have 3. We have 5 African American. Absolutely.
That are running. Okay, and we have 1 Caucasian.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that truly is a larger representation than what our city dynamics. And I'm not going into the politics.
Well, that we must go into their politics. Because let me tell you why. Because if you come down retired, if you come down from making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year, right? If you don't come up in poverty, if you don't come up in a small town area, and this is not to knock anybody, right? You can't help how you live and how you make it. I'm not holding you responsible for being successful in life. I'm not, right? I'm successful. So I'm not turning around and saying, hey, I'm faulting you for the things that you have in life behind hard work. Make no mistake about it. Being black and being successful in America, especially if you're older, not getting the age, is a milestone and accomplishment.
He's calling me old, everybody.
Well, it's an accomplishment in yourself. So when I look at, this is about the campaign and the candidates. When I look at somebody like Ms. Anderson, I've been in the Senate 30 some years. That means you grew up in Washington, D.C. We don't have Uber here. We don't have Metro trains here. We don't have that here. What is the dividing? Hey, I want to bring that to Hertford.
Okay, Metro trains, real quick.
Yes, sir.
What's your thought about the rail connecting Hertford into the Virginia area?
Well, let me tell you this. I think that I want it done yesterday.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. We used to have trains that come through every day.
Right.
But if you look at council members in Durham, and I have 2 also running for election now. If you look at some growing up in Kinston, if you go up looking up Raleigh, Durham, all those areas where the train connect. look at the economical
Okay.
thing to that.
So is this where the Albemarle Commission would be able to help us in that regard?
Well, we're jumping the horse, and there's so much because I do believe we'll get a different audience here being up here. If you understand that I am part of Small Cities Council, and that's in the nation, right? That's in the United States of America. I'm on what's called the Small City Council, and in order to be on the Small City Council, your population has to be 20,000 and under. I want people to understand this. We talk every week. If I show you my email, do a public records. We talk every week. And the way that they have been so successful is through grant writing, right? If you look at the county has been able to acquire almost $32 million in grants just last year, right? Hertford has only applied for 5 grants. 5 grants. Now, why is Hertford not hiring a grant writer? Check the last 2 years, we need grant writers. And the grant writers pay for themselves. We paid our public works director last year almost $60,000. He was able to identify over $120,000 in grants. So that paid for itself. So when you look at talking about, let's go get the rail system, what I'm hating is Hertford, the town of Hertford, has now become so dependent on the county, okay, that we can't fend for ourselves. So, I truly believe I'm not going to go buy you a fish. I'm going to train you how to fish, and you must go get it.
Okay,
so,
but the way the county has, the town and the county has evolved over the last 20 years, they've lost a lot of industry, a lot of local employment, correct?
Well, correct, due to Hertford Town Council.
Okay. well, I mean, we had mills, the mills when they were shut down.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's have a true discussion. Pepsi-Cola decided, hey, they want to be in Hertford.
Okay.
Go talk to the people in Pepsi. Before they went to their new location in Elizabeth City, they wanted to come to Hertford. They was denied. FedEx, you ain't been here a while, so I'm gonna give you education.
There's a little FedEx.
Well, before then, they was in West Hertford.
Okay.
They was in Meads. They almost lost. Well, almost lost Hertford. They was playing hardball with them.
Right.
So then you turn around and you look at, I know in Elizabeth City, there's a big major housing development, right? And in the housing development back then, across from where Charles Ward place is, there was supposed to be that housing developer. That guy wanted to be in Hertford. He said, y'all have great land and I see the potential growth here in Hertford. I want to build in Hertford. He ran away. The peanut factory wanted to come to Hertford. They said, oh no. And if you think about it, Hertford has so many injustice mechanisms. Then it was the planning board. So it don't even have to get to us. If the planning board rejects you, it never makes it to the town council.
Do you have influence on who sits on the planning board?
I do.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So the entire town council, they appoint.
We appoint at the planning board stages. So that's the mechanism. Now I want to tell you that it's a diversity. Go back over the years, right, and look at what the demographics and the makeup was of the planning board back then. And that doesn't mean that because you're on the planning board you was a racist. But a lot of this, if let's cut race out. Let's take, and I can never in my life take racism out because I understand. But let's take the race card out of that equation. Let's take thinking about, right? So that means if I'm in the Army and you're in the Navy, I can't think like a seaman because I was trained to be a soldier. You understand? So if I think about, hey, this beautiful house, right? I think about the trailer I grew up in, right? I wasn't fortunate to say, hey, I could have this house. It wasn't until I got adult, when the military, went to college, I said, hey, I can have this, right? So if a person can't get out of Hertford because of the economic struggles, because of the education level may not be there, African Americans are, in Perquimanslive County school system, we are 35% below whites. This is real numbers.
Okay.
This is statistical data. So what that says is my mind frame can't be like your mind frame, and we have to understand.
But see, and I do, pardon the phrase, come from a different side of the track.
Absolutely.
Okay. But honestly, for the majority of my employment history, okay, up until I took early retirement, I never made. Only 1 year I made over 60. Okay, well, which is I know is a lot of money for someone who's living in poverty.
Right.
But I also had 3 kids, 3 college bills, and the whole 9 yards. It was through conservative spending, and I had the benefit of my wife who was working at the time too. So a dual income household is a benefit.
Well,
and you're kind of snickering, but at this. But what I want to see, we have to be able to have a way for people to enter into the market, okay? For people to be able to have things that they call their own. Do you agree?
I agree, but you proved my point without proving my point. What you said is you talked about you having a wife then. You talk about you making and both of you guys working.
And
you talk
yes.
about that, but you got to talk about the majority of single parent homes are African Americans. You have to talk about the majority of, when you look at public housing in this town, African Americans. You have to talk, I mean, I understand right? But you just had a guy come to Hertford. I want to talk about it because it's very important. He said, hey, I want $20,000 and I'm going to build a 247 housing. This isn't affordable.
We're talking about the mill project,
Not
or where the old mill.
The housing project where
Okay.
the old Don Juan is, right?
Okay.
And he said, I just wanted $20,000. I'm going to identify grants. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to get it. Now, this would be very careful. This was in 2019, and then you had certain council members say, well, no, because we're going to come back and apply for some of these grants, and then you have to wait 3 years. Well, wait a minute. It was in 2019 when he asked for it. And if you apply for these grants, you had to wait 3 years, right?
Right.
You haven't applied for any of these grants. And what year is next year from 19?
But okay, let's say 2019 was three different members on the council, mayor and 2 council.
No. 2019, we had the current makeup.
The current makeup. Okay.
We had the current makeup. We're in 2 years now. We're 21
in
our next election. But them 3 years would have been 2022. And I just want to say, we haven't identified these grants. You still got your waterfront still in this development phases. You haven't applied for any grants. You haven't done any of this, and the guy was denied. But housing, if you look at every small city, because I can't even think of the name. We went to one small city and their square miles was so, and we said, well, how did you guys do it with just the square miles you guys had? They said we built up.
Yeah.
We couldn't get any houses around because we didn't have the land, man, so we built up. Now, Hertford has been stuck at 22 residents for the last 20-some years, 2,200 residents. So we have an ETJ that goes a mile long. And if you look, and when we talk about systemic racism, if you look at how the lines are drawn with the town of Hertford now, if you look, you see it. You see that where the high school is, we have a mile ETJ, but they stopped. And when I researched it, it was because a person was on the town council trying to sell his land. And the guy said, the only way I buy it if I don't have to pay dual taxes. Well, that's what happened. So go look at our lines. If you look at how Ballahat Road is drawn and all that farmland, and who was the original owners and who was on town council then, you will see. And I know I'm talking 50s and I know I'm talking 50s.
And honestly, it's no different than the other community.
Right. Well,
okay, but it really isn't.
But check me out. I asked, okay, now let's go and fix it and make it right. I asked this in 2018. The lawyer did the research. I said, hey, let's go expand our ETJ. That will grow our population. Now, thank you. Understand, we get our streets, we get our power bill. All the revenue we get from the state is based on what? Populations. So we fixed our ETJ, which is ours. You can fuss and scream about it, but the legislators give us 1 mile ETJ. If we can, at any point, a municipality can claim whatever land they want. So why not do our mile ETJ each way, right? Let's leave windfall alone and do our mile ETJ.
So you don't want to assume windfall.
Well, no. Why assume windfall? They have a municipality.
I'm just asking you.
Well, they have a town. They have a wonderful mayor. They have people. What I'm saying is, if you expand your ETJ, right, our population will grow almost 15% instantly. Now, people will say, hey, I don't want to be double taxed. I don't want to be, but you're still getting a break because you're not obligated to go on town electric. We're talking about legislator and people want to grow, and let's truly have growth. You look at where we stop at the rec center. If you go out, how many more business you have? The daycare, you have all these extra things that's going to be there, and it's a project we can all get through grants. I identified them. I didn't just say, hey, let me open because I don't open my mouth without having a solution. So I identified the grants and say, hey, we can do this.
So you're looking to increase the tax base by land acquisition.
Absolutely.
Not by improving. I'm not putting words in your mouth. Okay. So if we had better opportunities for employment in this community, that people could invest more into this community,
absolutely,
that would also help our tax base.
Well, it will. But let's explain this to me. Right. I've been in Hertford a long time. Right now, all you hear people talk about is East Hertford. You hear people, and East Hertford now leads the way. Economically, East Hertford leads the way, right? Well, I come from Hertford when you had Apricot. I come from Hertford when you had Don Juan. I come from Hertford where every other person in every other city was coming to Hertford every day because that's where the employment was and the mill jobs was. Right. So when we understand, right, that, hey, we can do this. We can do it. Yeah, we can build. But actually, Hodges brought a study, and he shot himself in the foot because what he brought a study was this guy was offering 225 housing, 3-bedroom housing. Okay. But when Ashley brought his map of the old Hertford, it was only 80 houses. 80 houses times 3, do the number. That means that we can't even grow but 1,000 people if we went on every house where there's an empty lot. So how do you go off growth and production?
But the current housing market is really tough.
Absolutely.
Okay, and when I'm saying really tough, the prices have skyrocketed. The opportunities to get into a decent home for your family, and decent home, running water, electricity. Hopefully, you have AC in this part of the country. A roof over your head that doesn't leak. Okay, that's that. There's not a lot of rental properties available either.
Well, I love to have this conversation with you. It ain't a lot of rental properties because the town of Hertford tore them down and it's on scale to tear down another 4. Why are we tearing down housing?
We're going to get to that one too.
Well, let me finish. I want to say when we're saying that we're going to tear down these houses, okay? The county that we so much love, every year through the block grant was getting millions of dollars to say, hey, let's fix up these houses. See, I ain't scared to call people out. So when we look, they would say every year, can y'all identify 5 senior citizens that own houses that we can help fix houses in the town of Hertford?
Right.
So what I'm saying is Hertford was also eligible to get these block grants. We never applied. So when county residents, right, who's predominantly in the county, this is where race come at, who's predominantly white, is able to benefit from this program, and the people that live in Hertford that's predominantly black don't get the same opportunities, even though we're town and county residents, even though we're double taxed. Why on God's green earth wouldn't we be applying for these grants and helping people fix their houses up? Now, I grew up in a house all my life. You just talked about running
water, electricity, no leaking roofs. Okay?
You just talked about all that thing. I grew up in the house, right? I turned 18 and I moved out of my mom's house, and I said, hey, well, I'm going to go get my house and get my apartment. My mom passes away. She lived in Hertford all her life. She paid taxes. I don't owe taxes. But the house is in shambles. I'm making the same dollar amount I've been making all my life. How can I afford to fix up my mom's house, which I prefer to live in, and I prefer to weatherize, and I prefer to say, hey, I can do this instead of renting and owning something. How do I fix it up? So now a year passed, 2 years passed. I don't want to sell it because it's a family heirloom. And this project, I lost my family house to, 329 Market Street. I lost my family house to this, and we had running water and electricity and no structural damage. But it was doing a nuisance to the town of Hertford. And that was the loophole. But now, it affected me personally.
But now you're in the position to affect change.
Right.
Okay, you're in the position to affect change.
Right.
And part of that affect change, and I've talked to many people, I can't even count how many, that for people who are private property owners, such as what your mother's home was, then you became, why don't we fund a pool, a resource to help get them, if there's a code issue, let's address the code issue and not tear it down if the entire building is salvageable. But when, and I'm saying private individuals, but when we have, people who are gaining money off of the backs of other people and the properties need improvement, let's hold them a little bit more accountable.
Well, you can hold them accountable. Let's not say we can't hold them accountable, but you're looking at a double-edged sword. Some of these properties, if you tear down, and this is what people, let's get into the thick of it. If you tear them down, they can no longer be built up on these lands because they no longer meet code. You can only tear certain of these houses down, the majority of African-American houses down to ground level. You cannot move the foundation because they do not meet the current state code. So that's a discussion you need to have. Oh, tear them down. Oh, you can't do nothing with them once you tear them down. And nobody's having that conversation because they do not meet the state of North Carolina code now on being able to build on them. And so that's one issue nobody's talking about.
And why haven't people called our senator, our state house representatives, say, listen, we got an issue here. You need to help us navigate what's going on at this.
I will promise you this. Where I come from, you go take a pool, people that
don't even know who
don't know who our senators are.
And that's part of our problem in our community, isn't it?
Well, this is what I would say. Our senator and our House of Representative guy who's Ed Goodwin and Bob Steinberg, we see them during election time. We see them when it's time to vote.
Well, that's common of almost any political figure who's not local.
Well, let's change politics because I'm in the streets every day. My phone number is given out every day. The people know where I live at every day. When utilities are getting cut off, when utilities are down, who phone rings the most? Because I'm the most accessible to the people in the town of Hertford, be it white and black.
But in the structural scheme of things, the town council should be the ones responsible to the town.
And municipal elections are the most important of everyday lives. Your local elected officials are the most important in everyday lives.
Yes.
So understanding we deal with you on a day-to-day basis, day to day. And when I look at saying, hey, the current structure of the town council, you have 3 council members live on this part of town. Just three. The majority 3 is what we call them, right? So the majority 3 that lives on this part of town, none of them thinks about our neighborhood. What have they done? What have they done? I'm asking. Legislation. Well,
I've been here 3 months, so I can't answer yes, no, or indifferent.
Well, I'll tell you nothing.
Okay.
Nothing. Well, let me not say
Absolutely
that.
nothing?
Well, absolutely nothing. And
They raise taxes on everybody
well, no,
for
see,
the water and sewer.
well, that's not taxes. That's water and sewer rate.
Okay.
So they raised water and sewer rate, but did not raise taxes because who have been heavily impacted by raising taxes? The 3 of them. The 3 of them, because their houses are some of the highest houses on the market. So when you talk about fair play, our electric rates, our tax base is some of the lowest of any municipality in the.
And thank you very much for that.
Well, you talk about it,
Right.
but how can we turn around and raise electric rates on non-homeowners? This was an issue,
Right.
Because what happened is the majority of the who's own houses in Hertford. We can go be slumlords, right? And we can rent to you, and your electric rate can be high. And that's how it was so many years was all set for the town of Hertford. But we're gonna keep taxes low because the majority of these people here, they own houses.
Would you support a separate tax rate between those who are living in their homes and those who are registered as rental properties?
Well, let's absolutely not.
Okay,
You know,
that's fine. That's a simple yes, no question.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Okay.
Right.
Because that provides a different schematic on the tax base and maybe a leverage point. Okay, let's get down to some of the projects we have in the community. Waterfront. You've been outspoken on the waterfront. Some of the things I think you. Some of the things I think you like the idea, but not necessarily you like the execution of it.
Well, let me tell you this: the people, it's not a true diversity of the town of Hertford. I'm so tired of people saying because I look black, I'm black. Looking black don't make you black. Looking African American don't make you African American. Okay, let's understand that. So many times people are saying, hey, we're going to put placeholders in the way to turn around and say, this is so I can meet the quota of the waterfront property.
Do you think that's what they've done?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Look at the board. Look at the board of the makeup of the people that is on the waterfront board.
So
right?
you think some people are being used merely because of the tone of their skin?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And let's have reality talk about it. I had one lady said when they talked about kayaking and boating, right? I'm not saying let's not do it. I want to do anything that would drive revenue.
Right.
But I'm saying how many years did we have a canoe shop in Hertford? And they went belly up. I'm talking about the sound getting in and boat ownerships and boat docks. Hey, I can look out my door every morning. I ain't got no boat dock to go in and go swimming, and I'm not a boater.
I don't have a boat dock either.
Well, I'm just saying that I can't fault you because that's what you like to do, right?
Right.
But when you talk about doing properties, I'm talking about, hey, we can put anything we want on the ballot. The town of Hertford paid to have an election. So whatever we want on the ballot, the waterfront property, put it on the ballot. If you truly believe that's going to affect it, because it's gentrification. Let's not be fooled. It's gentrification. And
Well,
okay.
Let's stop there.
Okay.
All right. Gentrification, but it provides potential jobs to the community. Correct.
No.
It brings
Where you see
brings
that at?
tourism in.
Where you see that at?
Why wouldn't it provide potential jobs to the community? Because there's going to be new businesses and opportunities for business.
When we did the study, how many new jobs did that waterfront property say it was going to bring? How many times did the marina say it? The marina said it was going to bring 1 job. I have the data. So show me where it says it's going to be this massive thing.
But it's also cascading back into the town behind the waterfront.
Well, behind the waterfront, you see 3 town councilmen whose houses are going to go. Well, 2 town councilmen and the mayor whose houses are going to skyrocket. You see that if you talk about the existing plan of the waterfront, you talk about what it's going to do to West Grove Street. You talk about that bringing condos and houses and all this to that part of town.
Okay.
is merely gonna gentrify because a poor person like myself, we're not going to be able to afford our tax base because what happens to your tax rate? It goes up. Now,
But wouldn't that also impact the value of the properties that they own?
So let's do some more research, and we're not just going to talk about Hertford, okay? Let's talk about Allison Platt a little bit and her research. I reached out to black elected officials who Allison Platt had done projects for. They all spoke highly of Miss Platt. I'll say that Miss Platt is knowledgeable about what she does. I won't take that away from her, and I won't fault her because she did the service in which the town of Hertford asked her to do. That I won't take away from her plan. I went to Goldsboro. which Miss Platt did Goldsboro last. I have Antonio Williams, Bevan Foster, Brandy Matthews, a couple of town council members down there that I reached out to. When we understand that Miss Platt did that to Goldsboro, and it's beautiful. They have a beautiful down. I went down there. That's hands on. Go to Goldsboro and you see that she did exactly what she said she was do. But when you go now, there's a bunch of empty storefronts. You go look at the other cities. They increased their downtown size. They increased their lot size. And here we are. When I got elected in 2017, half of the downtown businesses wasn't occupied. Now, in 2018, under the former council, every building was occupied, but they was then working on the Arts League. So I don't want people to say, oh, now this council came and downtown is booming. Wait a minute. Go back and look at some of the meeting minutes.
And to be fair,
okay,
the decisions that are made 2-3 years ago, you're only seeing to come to fruition today.
Well,
I mean,
a lot of projects got stopped. When you talk about, we took $52,000 of taxpayers' money, even though we didn't have to. We took $52,000 of the town of Hertford money, and we put it in this waterfront plan. Now you had $20,000 to build the houses. Houses now. They was apartment houses, not affordable housing that was done through that. They was gonna have a pool. They was gonna have basketball court. It was gonna fix our infrastructure in our streets. All this was in that plan. They got turned down. No, we stuck on the waterfront. How can you get stuck on one project? So when you turn around and say it's coming to fruition, they paused it. We put money in. We put almost $100,000 for King Street Park, right? Mm-hmm. They cut it off, said we couldn't afford it. But this year they put $89,000 into downtown to redo downtown projects. So tell me how's it coming to fruition when we had a plan? Town of Hertford lost $136,000 because we wanted to expand our municipal building, which was on the waterfront, which the new people said, hey, look, the waterfront property, when police officer, whoever look out at it, is good for morale for employees. But it's in the books. Go look at it. Okay. This isn't a study I did. Right. This was more money that we paid out. We put money into building up that municipal building, which our workers are working. There's nothing but straight wind in their cold. You have to put space heaters in throughout the year. All the stuff they have to do just to stay warm in that building. When you understand that that's what they're doing, we put money in, and the new council came and said, well, we ain't gonna do that, and they scrapped $100,000 of your taxpayers' money down the drain. How is it coming to fruition? This is something that every clerk, go back, the clerk prior to that, she said, all I want to do before I retire, and she was here 37 years, is just to see us get a new building. And it shouldn't be a targeting tool for these people to go up and grow. But, everything is about money, money, money. Understand, from 2017 to 2019, Hertford had an 85% fund balance. We was third highest in the state. That means Raleigh, Durham, Charlotte, Hertford, little town, was third highest in the state. Now we're a little bit under, I'll give it 15%. So you go from 85 to 15%. Now I'm not in the majority. Last year I was excluded out of the budget. This year I was excluded out of the budget, right? I had a vote. I voted nay, but we was excluded out of the budget.
But you had the opportunity of voice.
No, I had my voice, which people say, it's confrontational. These people know what they're doing. So you got two people then that hijacked the budget last year. Check the minutes. They took the budget and said that me or Councilman Frank Norman had no input on it. They said, we don't care what you guys got to say. Because they ran off the platform, we're going to shut it down. When you look at a mayor of a small town saying, my councilman is, I sold a car. No, that was a political promise to them, right? When we understand the economics, we got to understand the economics. When you look around town at any of these windows, how many African Americans you see working? You keep saying, hey, it's going to get jobs, it's going to get jobs. Yeah, you'll get jobs. You'll see jobs at the Blue Store. You see jobs at Family Dollar. You see jobs at McDonald's. You'll see jobs that pays $20,000 a year. So when we understand that's what our town got. When you look at Edenton, they're similar. How many new restaurants they got at Edenton? 3 months. Taco Bell. You look at the new Walgreens. You look at everybody building. Hertford has a lot of land. Where the building at?
Well, the joke between my wife and I is when we moved to town, it was Sunday about 5 o'clock, and we strolled into downtown.
Well,
and we were looking for dinner,
and everything was closed.
Everything was closed,
and absolutely. So when you understand that everything's closed, and you have to go to Captain Bob's, to get you a good Sunday. That's no knock against him for making money. No, but when you understand that, hey, what is our downtown shouldn't look like that. Downtown. If you go look at downtown, even downtown Elizabeth City, they've done so much. When you look at bars, you have your one. When you look at bars, when you look at clubs, when you look at nightlife, when you look at the outside, even one that they have, that's a downtown, right? That's lively. When people come here on that boat dock and they park their boat, right?
They're going to need places to spend their money.
Where are we going to spend our money,
Right.
right? So even if you do that and you say you want to build a hotel, you had an African American come, they got acres of land, they gave us a project to say, hey, I can get a hotel here. What people don't know is I drove to Virginia Beach, sat down and met with some guys from the Marriott chain and sat down and said, hey, I want you to bring a hotel. And the tough questions they asked me, I was sweating. I was a 2-year councilman then, right? I was able to answer those questions, but they said, hey, y'all, you got to do more. They want to know what's the tax break you're going to give us for building a hotel here. These are questions. Ask your current mayor and your current city council what they're going to do.
Which is, from my experience, it's typical of any major development project. The big corporations want to put the pinch on the little community to prop them up.
Well, I agree with that, but we need a hotel and we needed it yesterday. So when you look at the hotel tax base, even if they build it, you could change your tax rate at any time per your contract. So when you look at your occupancy tax, when you look at all these things, you got Airbnb in Hertford. Right. Every other city is getting the occupancy tax on Airbnb. How much is Hertford getting? I'll tell you a donut. You know why? Because they don't identify it. They don't, hey, we ain't gonna mess with that. We can't mess. Well, why not? You have to set your rates and stuff now before you get these businesses so it ain't at the table. How do you negotiate with businesses not knowing what your occupancy tax rate is gonna be, not knowing what this stuff is gonna be? So you have to, I've been here. I'm in the room. Okay? Right. So, make no mistake about it. People say whatever they want, right? The National Black Caucus of local elected officials made up of the whole United States, right? I'm the regional director for North Carolina. That means that I represent every black elected official for the state of North Carolina. And on the state level, through the North Carolina Legal Municipality, I'm the first vice president for the North Carolina black elected municipal officials. Meaning I still represent every black elected official. Now, does that mean that they okay everything I do? Hey, the president and I have a lot of tough conversations. We have a lot about you shouldn't do that. So don't think it ain't accountability factor, but they also know what I bring to the table.
Okay.
And so what I bring to the table is I'm not going to sit at the table, sit there knowing that I'm going to lose and still not voice my opinion when I see wrong being done in the town of Hertford. I've said this several times, and each other council member have said it. If the 3 other council members that I normally don't vote with me die tomorrow, they won't get buried in the town of Hertford. All right, Jerry Memblick has said it openly. Councilman Hollinger said it one time, then he retracted, and Ernie Brown said it. They won't get buried in the town of Hertford. So when they say, "Oh, we love Hertford," we love Hertford. You love Hertford, but part of loving Hertford is saying, "Hey, I'll bite the bullet and raise the taxes. Raise it. Why didn't you raise the tax base? Our fund balance have dipped 60%. If I lost my tax base, see, you can raise the water and sewer rates high as you want.
Right.
It's restricted funds. You can't spend them. I can raise the electric bill to millions of dollars. However I want, I can't spend them. They're restricted. You can only use them on electric-based things, right? But the tax money, I can use any way I want to. Why not? Why haven't you raised them?
Well, again, we have slightly different views of how to increase our tax base. Okay? For me, I like to see the properties that we have that are available to build construction on, to get construction built on and bring more people into town versus raising the base, because Hertford is affordable in that vein.
Well, it's affordable.
And it's also beneficial. It's not only beneficial to people who may live on this part of town, but to people who live in the entire town.
It's affordable, but when you go to spend your local taxpaying dollars, you got to go to Elizabeth City to go to Walmart. It's affordable, but when you want to fix up your house,
trust me, I know. Okay, I go up to that Lowe's where we used to live. My Lowe's was less than a mile from my house.
Right.
Okay, and I would run over there, and a major grocery store was less than a mile from my house. I had those luxuries that I don't have here. And it's a planned trip, and yes, I have to carve out 4 hours of my day in order to go pick up a 2x4.
Absolutely.
Okay, I haven't bought many 2x4s since I've lived here, but it's even more problematic when you don't have the ability, and you're relying upon public transportation, that you're going to have to go up there or to do shopping, because yes, we have a grocery store in town. It's not exactly the most economical.
It's a monopoly.
Place to shop.
Yes. It's a monopoly. And you see now that when you talk about Food Lions monopoly, that's what we got. And so is it...
that's some of the corporate way that they operate.
Well, I agree with that, but when you look at Elizabeth City, you can go to Aldi's, you can turn around and you can go to Walmart, you can go to... I mean, it's options, and we can't do our tax base will of the city because they're 20,000 strong and they got 3 universities. We understand that.
It's a big difference there.
Well, it is, right? But we was on the cusp of having them bring a college of the Albemarle to Hertford. They said, get the property. So we was talking about, hey, we got Don Juan. What did the town do to acquire it to bring the COA to Hertford? Guess what? The new council came, they strapped it. Right? I'm just saying, and I can't blame the new council because I'm a part of the new council, like it, love, or dismay, but I wasn't able to sway them in that direction. But do you know how major it would have been to have colleges of Albemarle in Hertford? I mean,
Right.
that was a start. When you talk about bringing universities and doing these things, we have to start somewhere. Well, who's going to take that leap of faith?
But
Now,
College of Albemarle. What would have been the dollars and cents?
well, we don't know because when we had to explore, you had to vote to bring something to the meeting room. Now, 2 things I want to harp on when we were talking about that, because we didn't explore it, right? The fire department. You had Albemarle Plantation willing to pay millions of dollars and build a Hertford fire substation that would have brought more revenue to the town, right? We went in the room, we met with them. It got shot down. The people on the plantation are an unmanned 10 right now. I know people don't know what that means.
Okay.
That means they're paying millions of dollars in fire insurance because they don't have a fire department within the range to bring it down. If you live in Hertford, we have a rating now of a 5. Right? That's high as we can get as a volunteer fire department, right?
Right.
So we have a ladder truck. If we just would have built them a substation, they would have went to a man 5. That would have saved millions of dollars. They said, hey, we want to help Hertford.
Is that completely scrapped now?
Well, it's 2 years, right?
Okay.
So we had the meetings. We had them come down. Mr. Art Honeycutt came down. We had a plan. New council came and they strapped it. So when you talk about millions of dollars lost, these are projects that people in the town of Hertford are not talking about. I was in the room,
Okay.
So when you and I want to make it. I hear you what you're saying. You're saying, hey, the people of Hertford, these houses, I want to see them and do taxes through that. Hertford has a 95% tax collection rate. This auditor just came. 95% tax collection
And
rate.
even those who have been delinquent on their taxes,
Right.
they're trying to make good
They're
on
making
taxes.
payment arrangements,
Okay.
right? So now you're saying, look, let's be for real. Some of these property owners wasn't cutting their grass. So we was charging them $600 every time they cut the grass.
But sometimes we don't cut the grass at our public parks and have to pay overtime for people to come in. I know that's a point you've made.
Well, no, that's not the point I made. The point I made, and let's be perfectly clear. We had a problem with the lawn care company that was cutting a few years ago. People was complaining, even one of the current candidates was complaining about the horrible job that was being cut grass. The town of Hertford pays $2,500 a month to cut grass to an outsourced person. I won't name them, that's unfair.
Yeah,
To an
right.
outsourced person. And in paying $2,500, they're responsible for our cemeteries, they're responsible for our Mr. Mill Park and some other areas around town. Now, that means that eased it off Public Works. They don't do our nuisance property. The Public Works do our
Right.
nuisance property. They also do our spraying field and other things. What that meant that we pay somebody. So when we go there and you rent it to have your daughter's birthday party at Mr. Mill Park, there's no reason when they get there the grass is this tall. There's no reason. So now because it's a paid service, when we had to actually give people their money back because the park wasn't cut and it looked so bad, when you turn around and understand now I got to call a Public Works guy, we have to now pay them overtime for the stuff
right.
that come in and cut this area that ain't been cut.
And the little,
Yeah.
Debbie, who's supposed
out?
to have a birthday party, is now
Having to wait, grass
Right.
having to cut, all these mechanisms. How does the current council explain this and not ask for the money back or at least look at the contract?
so it's
Because
holding people accountable.
it's accountability, which
Okay.
number one. And people should hold me accountable. As an elected official, you're a Caucasian, I'm black. If you feel I'm elected to serve you, whether you vote
I'm
or
a citizen, you're a citizen.
I'm a
Okay.
citizen, I'm an elected official.
Right.
I'm your elected official,
Yes,
whether
well,
on the town
but-
council. So if you have an issue, regardless of skin color, you should be able to pick up the phone and call me. One thing that I don't like is when people move to this side of town, the first thing they say is, oh, well, we got 2 guys here. We need you to vote this way. But at being true, open-minded, right? And I don't know whether you voted or you haven't voted. You should say, hey, I want to get to know this person. Because, I made it a issue that I will not speak to anybody from the Daily Advance or Perquimanslive Weekly, as long as they had the past editor, right? I make it my business to say, hey, if they get a new editor, they haven't done anything to me, right? I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt to say, hey, I'll give you a story. I'll talk to you.
But in that vein, I said, listen, I'm not pressed.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Well, you're not pressed, but you're putting this out. But what I want to say is that I give them a chance,
Right.
to see how you're going to write this story, how you're going to say what I said, right? How are you going to do all of this? I give you the chance to say, hey, we'll do this, right? But the moment you show me who you really are, like the Daily Advance, who's supposed to be an unbiased paper, said, hey, don't vote for Jackson, don't vote for Norman, don't vote. You're supposed to be unbiased. But I understand freedom of the press, but this is what your editor, not a citizen, wrote.
Right.
This is what your editor note said, right? You're putting bias in people's mind. But I'm saying, what if, change your mind, what if everything that you're thinking is wrong? Now, the crime bill, right? The national crime bill that
Right.
Donald Trump signed. You know where that came from? That started at NBC Leo, which I am on the executive board. That started there. We were in the room.
But
that was drafted by us.
You know,
so when listen to hear what I'm saying. That was done in the room of Donald Trump, Tom Tillis, Richard Burr, all these Republicans. So it don't mean that we can't work on about South.
But see, where we live, we were 70 miles. Okay, I'm an hour from it, and it's like this makes too much sense. I can't believe something that makes sense is going to come out of D.C.
Right.
Let's move forward.
Okay.
Water and sewer.
Water and sewer.
Oh my gosh, I was completely flabbergasted coming down here. It's like, oh, we got a water sewer issue. Can you chunk it? What is our water sewer issue? So in layman's terms.
So in layman's terms, previous town council, I was not a part of this. Out 20 some years ago, right? Took out these massive loans. Nobody know why they took these loans out. And when they took these loans out, we now have to pay up.
Okay.
I mean, you have to pay up. And
they were deferred loans?
They were deferred loans. And
okay.
We have to now pay up. We've been paying for some time, but nobody knew about it until it was time to pay up. And when you understand that you take some of $20 million for this, $20 million for that, and nobody can explain.
20 million here, 20 million there, it starts to add up after a while.
And we don't know where the money came from. But what I would say is now, people, and let's make no mistake about it, at that time was only one African-American elected official, right? Mm-hmm. It didn't get out. It didn't get out. When you look at 20 years, we had some, but the citizens every day didn't know. One thing I hear even about Front Street, which I'm critical of on Church Street, they say, man, we're more involved in knowing what's going on now than we ever been. Well, why? Why did it take for Quentin Jackson to get elected?
Maybe it's because, they're sitting in rocking chairs like we are.
Yeah. But what I'm saying in layman's term is, right, when I look at Pennsylvania Avenue, you can go to Pennsylvania Avenue and you can look down and actually see the earth. That's disheartening. When you look at some Woodland Circle, when you go down and see the bumps in the road, and a lot of family homes down there, and your child can't ride the bike for something coming out of a hole or a training wheel going in a hole, it shouldn't be in the town of Hertford. And when you talk about spending $50,000 and $60,000 to turn around and for a plan, understand the money we spent wasn't to do anything. It was for a plan, for a sheet of paper.
Okay.
We paid $179,000 for a sheet of paper. Is what we did, and it doesn't mean we have to go for it. It don't mean we may never go for it.
This was 12 cents, okay.
Right, for a sheet of paper. So what I'm saying to you is, what about those people? What about the people in Pennsylvania Avenue and Woodland Circle? What about, this is West Hertford. And I'm simply saying, we did pave Meads Trailer Park. We did do that. They had a dirt road for 50 years. We were able to do that. The previous council now,
right.
we put that in place. But where are the grant writers? We don't want to fix the road without doing the infrastructure and water and sewer.
Well, but they paved the road on Church Street.
Well, no, they didn't pave the road.
The state paved the road on Church Street. With the knowledge that road's probably going to need to be torn up 5 or 6 times to fix issues.
Well, that's the thing. I went to Raleigh, right? I called several times. A lot of people don't know this. The only thing they know is Tahoe, and stay out. Well, I went to Raleigh 3 times. And after calling, we called and called, hey, you need to do something about Church Street. You need to do something about Church Street. I live on Church Street, right? Not north, but south.
Okay.
But we go, hey, this road is horrible. They're building, and we're going to do this. And we got you on the list. We're going to call this. Well, one day I got tired of it. So I get in the car and I drive, and I want to see who's the head of DOT. I go meet with some people I know, senator. They said, this the guy. The guy never heard of Quentin Jackson, or he never heard of the town of Hertford. Yeah. And then he told me, hey, y'all ain't due to a pave until 2023. Well, we got it 2 years earlier, right? And so we understand that they did that part of the bridge project. They were able to merge some things. They promised us once the new assisted living facility and nursing home came, they was going to do it to help us do this. And I'm grateful that they did that. But you got to understand that now we're not due for another pay for 5 years. Now we can hold the fire and say, hey, legislators, we want the money put here to redo these roads. I understand. But when is the town of Hertford going to be self-dependent? The power bill money comes from the county. Right. Our tax base is collected from the county. Our policing now is from the county. And when are we going to say, hey?
So we're the we're the ultimate outsourcing company, right?
Right. So when people say, hey, Hertford, y'all go take over Windfall for what? We can't even be dependent on our own without the county.
Okay, but we have some infrastructure issues with our
Right.
current water sewer.
Right.
Okay, the sand from our storm drains is infiltrating our sanitary sewer,
Absolutely.
and that's causing a problem when it gets to processing.
Well, right. Absolutely.
And I'm trying to lay it out as best as you may have more information than I do, but that's kind of the simple issue that we have.
And it didn't help that we got sued for money, which, you know, I can barely talk. I can say we got sued, but we got sued and we paid X amount of dollars to put a water tower up, and it bit us in the butt. You know, also what citizens are not talking about is how many times was the town of Hertford sued? You know, I want to talk, how many were we sued behind the water tower that's up there with Big Hertford on it? We were sued for that.
That's a pretty tower.
Well, if you seen the price tag that it cost us, I wouldn't.
No,
it ain't that pretty. It wasn't that pretty. So when you understand that, when you understand the housing issue, how many times were we sued behind the same blighted housing property that we want to get up? How much money did the attorney charge us for that? How much was the recourse of that? Now, when people say, "Oh, blighted houses, tear them down," nuisance fee, tear them down, how many times were we sued? How much money? How many millions of dollars?
Are people actually going out and saying black houses tear them down? They're saying neighborhoods. It's the neighborhoods that they're targeting.
Let me ask you this. You're in Hertford, right? You said you already know certain places. You just don't zigzag around Hertford. When you talk about Market Street, right?
Yeah.
Not the downtown Market Street, the uptown Market
I've
Street.
been all the way down the...
When you talk about that and you see that was predominantly black at one time, and that was the booming economy in the town of Hertford. When you talk about taking 13 houses from Market Street, okay? When you talk about taking from Dobbs Street, when you talk about taking somewhere in the neighborhood of 16 houses off of Dobbs Street, when you talk about taking 15 so houses off of King Street, this is on the list. This is the list.
Oh,
right?
I've seen the list. Yes.
Who does that predominantly impact? African Americans. And I'm not. And when you say that, and you say, "Well, Quentin, how can you say that?" Well, go identify the property listings on the list, right? Go identify the properties that's on the list and the homeowners.
It's our lower, and not saying it's African American, but it's our lower income citizens.
Well, I'm happy. You can say it.
Say
it.
But it really is.
Us poor black people, you can say that's what it is. You know, you have to sugar it up because you're not African American, right?
No, I'm not sugaring up. We look at the class the same way. We come up with different conclusions.
Well, I'm just saying that when you look at the home ownership, it's black people. Basically, it's going to take black people's property. It's going to do what it always did. They're going to auction it off, and the who's is going to come and buy it for under the tax value. They'll build it, and then they'll be renters. And if you look at the email scandal, because I know that's not on your list.
No.
You look at the email scandal.
You said you didn't look at my list.
I didn't. I said I know, because I know what we're going to talk. See, I'm from Hertford, so I know what you're going to talk about, right? So I haven't even looked. I'll show you the email, right? I haven't opened it up. I haven't saved it in anything because I want to be. I can talk.
You can mark it as unread.
I can go from the top of the head about this because I'm knowledgeable. That's what knowledgeable is. I don't need a head start.
You also have experience.
Right, I have experience dealing with this. But what I'm saying is, when you come in and do that, how can it not gentrify? If you already saying that predominantly the home ownership they can take that may be behind in taxes, so that means I can't afford to go back and bid on mom house, right? If I'm going to take your property, how can I afford to now say I'm going to go downtown? No, your buddy's going to get it. The black home ownership is already the lowest in the town. It's going to already be marketed that it's took, and white ownership is going to go up. Now, hold on. I'm going to rent. The email scandal. The Habitat for Humanity was building houses on King Street. Our current mayor, check the email scandal. Our current mayor said, do not build any houses here until we're able to rehab it. That was one of the emails that got out. And I don't understand the town went crazy about email scandals. John Gruden just had it in the NFL. Hillary Clinton, you talk about email.
It took a decade for John Gruden's stuff to get out.
But I understand that people don't really care about how it got out. It got out, and you should go off the information. So when I see this email that got mailed to me, right, the police see it got mailed to me and got mailed to other elected officials. It didn't come from people that look like me because you can't get an email, right? But I'm just simply saying, when you see these things, and it's disheartening to see that our African-American mayor tell the Habitat for Humanity, who helps everybody, it's not a black organization, not a white, it's about helping hands. When you see this, how do you justify saying, hey, don't build any houses on King Street until I'm able to rehab it?
And, in the service club, my Rotary Club I belong to, we just had the gentleman from Habitat speak.
Right.
Saying that they would love to build in Hertford, but they haven't necessarily been presented with the properties to build on. Let's do this.
Okay.
Okay, when we're done, get through the election thing. Let's call him together.
Well, let's call them together.
Okay, and let's see how we can fix it.
And I would love to see was his name the one on the email, because if his name was on the email, and I know she don't mind, Ms. Lena Council was going to donate her house to the Habitat for Humanity.
And sometimes they say the existing structures end up costing more than building from ground. Okay,
Well,
that was one of the points he did make.
Well, that house is such structurally sound. They denied it. What they wanted to do was flip with the town, and that was another thing in the email scandal. They wanted to flip with the town, but when they wanted to flip that with the town, make no mistake about it, now it's livable. People living there, had dual AC unit.
Right. She
She ain't a poor woman. She worked hard. She's okay. She owned multiple properties in town. She ain't behind in taxes, and she wanted to give because she just wanted to say, "Hey, I wanted to help. I wanted to help." And yeah.
The other thing, where we came from, there's a place called the Home Store.
Right.
And what the purpose is to help people who have issues with paying their loans, getting entry into homes, their first step to home ownership. And they source their resources from the state.
USDA has that same program right now. USDA, HUD Home Stores, Mark Spencer out of Southport. He was able to help me identify. And it's cheap to do it. Home ownership is so cheap.
Home ownership is the most important investment we can make in the community.
We can. That's the most important. But when you look at 80 houses, that means only 80 of our renters. If every lot that's vacant right now, which Mr. Hodges showed us, every lot right now we build on, there's only 80 homes. 80 homes amount, they have that in one unit, plus in Wayne-Fort Court. When you talk about 150 units. So if each one of them became homeowners, we wouldn't have.
Well, okay, but you were talking about the mill property with the additional homes.
That's right.
Is that market rate for what
The town was going to own it. We was going to set the rate. That was going to be owned by the town of Hertford. Now, the interesting thing they said is we was going to get $37 million in loans, right? The guy presented the plan and said on every one of these properties, when they're near about completed, he see major corporations come in and buy it. Right? And when they buy it, guess who would have got the money? Now, we wouldn't have got $37 million. But if we sold it for $45 million, we're still $8 million to the town of Hertford, which is more than our budget in a budget year.
So, I guess it,
I do want to say to that point. So when we talked about building the houses, you had the mayor say, well, we don't need to do it because we're going to have to increase police, fire, this and that. So how do you say that, but then say you want more people to build?
You can't build your tax base without having investments in the community.
Well, we need, instead of this waterfront plan, we need to invest in our people. We need to invest in housing. And I'm not saying let's not do some of the things in the plan are good, but I'm just saying that plan is down the road. What is Hertford going to do right now? Those plans are down the road. Even if you build a waterfront plan, yeah, it'll happen. We know it's going to gentrify. We know that the African American population won't be able to live here. We'll have to rent forever. But what are we doing right now?
If we flip the light switch right now,
right?
You said it's 3 years before you see something hit the street.
Right.
Okay. So 3 years. And we still have the waterfront project, which in my viewpoint is probably 5 years or greater down the road to get it to the point of being a contributor to our community. Do you agree? At least 5 years?
I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Well, and I will tell you this: the waterfront property, right? We was told last year that Erie Hayes property would be sold. The movie theater was the first step. We're 3 years from that 2-year plan that we was told. Why it ain't happened yet? Then we was told, COVID, so we pushed it out a year. Okay, now it's been another year. Why it ain't happened yet?
I can't speak for the people who are the investors there.
The things in the waterfront property that was promised to the town before we got involved, none of that has happened. I seen a new council willing to spend $240,000 for a building that's been flooded several times. I see that I believe they'll sell their souls for a waterfront property to appease who? To appease who? I see that we have acres of our spray field that's inadequate, that we need to tear down and rehab or do something with. I see the Brent House when you talk about blighted properties that's atrocious. Yep. I see the old ice plant when you talk about tearing down, which is the town atrocious.
But the Brent House, the town council said, no, we're not going to accept an offer on that.
Well, so we should
at the last meeting.
So we should accept $12,000 for a $53,000 just land. We're charging you nothing. We're charging you not one penny for the house. We're gonna say pay us under $40,000. The land value is $53,000. It's a pond behind there. It's next to a spray field, and we're gonna give it to a person for $12,000.
I'm not saying you had
Would
to
you do
approve it. If I could get it for 12,000, it'd be a heck of a deal.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well,
You know, maybe even a little bit more. But anyway,
well, let me ask you this question. I don't want to be mute just talking about water, sewer, and infrastructure. When you came to Hertford, were you worried about turning your lights on, being able to pay your utility bill? I'm asking you a legitimate question.
was I concerned whether I could pay my bills?
Right. Pay your utility bill.
My utility bill? It's something because I'm budgeting for the next 20 years.
Right. So was you concerned about it?
I'm always concerned about it.
Well, was you concerned about being able to pay your mortgage when you relocated, you and your wife?
When we relocated,
Because you're retired, right?
I am pseudo retired.
Okay.
When we relocated, we were fortunate enough that the value of our home in Maryland was sufficient to cover almost all this, and we had other resources.
Right. So other resources. So what do you say as a citizen to the person that knows that's dreading when it's time to pay their light bill? What do you say about the person that when they're dreading to pay their light bill, when they live in housing complex, that if your light's not on, you could be evicted?
And let me tell you something.
Yes, sir.
Brother, I've been there.
Well.
And you may not think that by me sitting here in this room. Okay? I've been there. I've been to the point where I didn't know where I was going. At one point, my wife ended up because of medical reasons. She couldn't be a nurse anymore, and the business which I had worked in for 19 years was sold. And in a period, I had two kids, college age, going into college. We went from a comfortable six-figure income to making less than $20,000 in a year. Your lifestyle is built on the income that you have coming in. I've been there. Okay, right. I've known the struggles of what it takes to come up with every last penny. I've had the indignity, but also the fortunate benefit of having a family member saying, "Listen, you need food in your pantry. I'll get it for you." So I've been there, and it's beyond a humbling experience, and I feel for people who have to go through it.
Well, I want to say this because I don't want somebody to look at this video and just say, "Oh, he's just racist and all he talk about is black, black, black." I was in 2017. I got video clips. I was talking about utility rates and how to get it low. And I'll never forget the Caucasian lady, I don't even know her name, that walked up to me. And she said, "Mr. Jackson," she said, "I just want to thank you." She said, "And the reason why I want to thank you is because everybody can't afford the utilities in Hertford. And it ain't just every black person that's broke in the town of Hertford." And she, it stuck with me. It stuck with me that I ran in 2017 with the promise that we will get a better utility plan. And I'm here to tell you that's one of the plans that I have not fulfilled. Because we still have the same old policy. We still have the same old tactics. Our rate is a little bit higher than it was then, but we still things. And going forward, I don't want to leave until it's fixed. I don't want to leave until there's a humbling way that people can pay their utility bills in a good manner. I do know this. If you've been there before, I will ask you to look at yourself and think about these 47% of the people in the town of Hertford. I understand your waterfront property. We have needs. We seen when COVID first happened, the town spent $11,000 feeding people. Think about those lines of people that's coming to get food. Think about Burt T. We're a small town. Burt T is the third largest county in Perquimanslive County. But think about when they went through those tornadoes. I was on the ground there, be able to take what little resources Hertford had to take it to those people in struggle. And that's what Hertford is. We are a resilient community that can turn around and we overcome adversities. Make no mistake about it. King Street, Wayne Ford, you can talk about all the shootings you want, but we are together. We call it H-Town United, we stand. And H-Town will stand united. And I will stand.
I'm from an H-Town too. So.
Well, now you're living in another H-Town. And I know people don't see that and people want to make this place a retirement community. But Hertford ain't dead. And if Hertford is going to be dead, then treat it like it's dead and just give up our charter and just go to a municipality.
Well, let me share something, okay? Our decision to move here wasn't to change Hertford, okay, to what we wanted. Well, we liked what we saw, and that's why we moved here, okay?
Aside for the Google ads, right?
When you go to Google, you over to YouTube. Now, I'll be honest with you. Part of doing this, the sit down, is to hopefully, and it's open to anyone else, right. People who are community influencers, I can take the show on the road. That we're doing it from my house right now, but community influencers, leaders, to business owners. I have no problem sitting down talking to anyone.
Well, I have the venue. I open you. We have 9 days before election day. Well, a little the second, but we have a little to November 2nd. I ask you to ask the other people, get them to debate the facts, debate the issues. We have the courthouse. We can social distance. You can stream. Get them to debate the issues, because see, what's happening is these people are making a lot of promises to one side and then going to the other side making a lot of promises. Say it on the record. Don't wait till while you're getting these people to go out to the polls and vote.
Unfortunately,
watching, get them to debate. Debate.
What you want.
Debate Jackson.
And
Jackson.
And you asked for this back at the town council meeting earlier this month.
Debate Jackson.
Okay.
Let's trend that. Debate Jackson.
Okay, and that's starting to sound to me like impeach 45. Okay.
Well, no, we don't have to impeach. But like or love Donald Trump for whatever you want. Donald Trump, regardless if you like or loved him, in my phone I can pull up. I was there. I was in the room with him 3 times, okay? Pictures with Donald Trump, right? I was at a rally. Understand what you want to say about Donald Trump. Donald Trump won't scared of the fight. Donald Trump took his base and still taking his base, and he had town halls, and he went out all across the country saying what his platform was publicly. So it ain't about impeach 45. It's about, hey, let everybody know. If I'm going to stand here in front of your podcast, right?
I just threw a squirrel in front of you. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just saying, if I'm going to sit on your platform and I'm going to say this here, knowing that it's not live, it's live, whatever, knowing that I'm saying this, right? Say it to everybody, right? It's one of those things that I'm say it to my face. So don't get on one side of town and talk this way, and don't get to this side of town and talk another way, right? Because I talk the same in front of everybody. Since I've been around, I talk the same.
But form and function of getting a debate together in the last 2,
it's easy. It's easy.
It may be easy. I still have candidates that I'm scheduling to
schedule them to sit down instead of sitting down. Schedule them to say, hey, let's take it to the courthouse. Let's take it to the municipal building. We will all respect one another's time. It won't be a 45 show. We will sit down and let's debate the issues. Say what you're going to say and say what you're going to mean in front of everybody. That's what I'm saying, because what's happening is a lot of misconceptions, right? Miss Anderson, on her flyer, right? She has a lot of things on her flyer that municipal government don't do. And if you look at what she's saying, it's identical to what the mayor ran on. And not one thing that the mayor put on her bucket list has she accomplished. Not even has she accomplished it, she hasn't brought it to the forefront. When you talk about, hey, I'm going to bring, as a council member, we're going to go get broadband from the town of Hertford. How are you going to get broadband from the town of Hertford?
Oh, speaking of broadband, I actually sat down with the town manager shortly after moving in.
Yes, sir.
And I made a suggestion. Now, I won't, betray the trust I had when I sat down with her. But the purpose and goal was to get broadband available to our community. Not in front of my house, though that would be nice, but to the whole community at affordable rates.
That's fine to do, right? But what we understand is we have no capabilities of doing that. Now, in fact, I have a church pastor calling me because he can't even get internet at his church. But I want to say this.
We have fiber going into the town trunk, correct?
We have it, but hold on. Governor Cooper just put almost $15 million into rural North Carolina in this grant to bring broadband to eastern North Carolina. Where was our mayor at? She wasn't in the room. Where was she at? It was a roundtable discussion with the mayor. And this is very important. It's public records. Go see how many mayoral roundtables for the state, how many for the national level have our mayor been accountable for. Because I can tell you, she went to 3. And one of them, she left early. It's public record. And I just want to say, when you talk about somebody fighting and you're talking about broadband, the county commissioners, that's who we must hold accountable to say, go after the governor and get this money. Because it don't say town of Hertford. It say county. And it's going to say Perquimanslive County. And once you get it, you must get the money. Now, second of all, our mayor keep talking about county and money. Money is the prime source. The first round of stimulus, how much money did the county give the town of Hertford? I'll tell you, a big fat donut, and nobody kicked and streamed. But when they mandated and said, no, you guys can't, Quentin Jackson, right, Frank Norman, we was on the phone call with the president. We said, look here, y'all can't do this anymore. Look under the infrastructure on the municipality under who signed it. You won't see Memlich, you won't see Hodges, you'll see Quentin Jackson, and you'll see Frank Norman. And it got sent to every last one of us. Sign this and say, no, do not send our money to the county anymore. They're not being fair to the municipalities. Go get the paperwork. Go look at it. They're
Okay.
not fighting for you on a national state level. Then guess what happened? It got changed. And they said, oh no, counties, you will no longer get this. What we will do from now on is we will tell you how much money you must give the municipality. And it wasn't until then that we got the money. So when we're sitting here and we're having this conversation about, hey, let's do this or let's do that, hold them accountable. It's bigger than a waterfront property, because guess what? If the revenue stream here was everybody was making $50,000 a year, right? Build your waterfront property, but let's not do it when we have a 47% poverty rate. People don't know how to build utilities, and half of this project is, let me ask you a question. If I tell you right now, right, this side of your house, right, you rent it to me, but you got to pay your same mortgage rate, and you and your wife can live here. Would you do that? Absolutely not. But if you look at the waterfront plan, it's contingent on Hertford giving up the majority of public land for a bunch of private land, and half of it is uninhabitable. Oh, well, we're just going to build a boulder, and the town of Hertford will be able to use it. Well, if you're going to build your boulder so that the town of Hertford will not be able to use it, you already have it. There you go. You can still see the sound. You can still see the ocean. You can still see the new bridges. Why are you just focusing on, hey, we got to have Mr. Mill Park? Well, it's private back there. It's secluded. You can build you a nice fence, bed and breakfast, all those condos. But they are dead set on taking every plan you've seen, contingent on the town of Hertford giving the majority of our property away. And that's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be thinking smart. I will say this, think whatever you want to say, majority white council, black council, whatever, the previous councils have been smart with the town of Hertford's money. And nobody can contest that. They have been very smart to get our fund balance where it is. And I'm sad to be a part of a council that has drained us dry. And people will say, this is what their counter argument be. Because see, I already been here. They will say, oh, well, 2019 it was low. It was not low. USDA came to the town of Hertford when we wanted to do all these projects and get all these grant monies. And they said, town of Hertford, we cannot help you guys because you have too much money in the bank. The auditor just spoke about this. So what we had to do was, if we allocate the money, guess what that means? We had two ways of doing this. We could have went to every department head and did what's called capital outlay, which means even if they didn't spend their money, they keep their money in the bank. Right? That means if the police department didn't spend their whole salary that year that goes back into the fund balance, it would stay under the police funds for the following year. And that would have lessened how you would do it. So if you do capital outlay with some of that money, it would have killed our fund balance down, and we only have projected to get it down to about 55%. Okay? From 85 to 55, which was 35%. We was hoping to get our fund balance down low enough to say, hey, we don't have that money in the bank no more because it's already allocated out. You get what I'm saying? That was the high usage. Now USDA, now we need your money. And they told us how to do it. That's what nobody's talking about. They're like, oh, you spend the money, you did this and that.
But is that intrinsic of the government telling you how ways that you can hide the money in order so you can get more money?
Well, that's America.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm not saying hide the money because it's public money. But our police department at that time was underfunded. We funded them, right? And the the sheriff is asking. He asked for more money when he got this project, and it's still your county paying dollars. So they're not talking about the insurance revenue of having a police and a sheriff department. Watch your insurance rate slowly go up. Well, not you guys, because you guys reached the mile quota, right? But understand this insurance, what it did when we lost the police department, is something happened to the fire department, which is all volunteer.
Right.
Because if you look at our fire department, we're a volunteer fire department. They even took the fire department's money. They underpaid them what they had already got in the previous year, even though we know. Accountability. When you talk about, and people will say, what has Quentin Jackson done for the town of Hertford? You know, what have we done? Well, guess what? We had students that was delinquent in food program, right? I took my in-kind donation money because we all allotted some money,
right?
And I paid off every bit of the food with it. I could have did whatever I wanted with it, but I paid every bit of every lunch debt for Perquimanslive County Schools with mine. Ask the other people what they did. You know, when you talk about King Street hadn't been paved in 70 years, you had people crying because they remember being little kids the first time it got paved and skated on.
Yeah, I have been down King Street, so
I got it paved.
Right.
You know, and for whatever indifference, the water, sewer, just when you ask look at my record. Even when I fell under the new council, what I didn't do, look at what I put on the floor. We were supposed to get a new municipal building. All those in the project got halted. You know, so.
Well, let's
okay.
Let's go. On the water sewer, do you see Windfall as joining in as part of the solution, or you want them to improve their infrastructure before they join in?
No, I say that before they need to pay their fair share.
Okay.
And I'm fine with us saying to Windfall, hey, you know, infrastructure, but are we going to be a good neighbor and not help Windfall? I mean, you can't say, I understand we got to look out for Hertford, and I understand they're not paying their part and it's draining, but why would you, on God's green earth, turn around and just turn your back on Windfall?
Yeah,
We're one
and the
county.
H-town that we came from,
Yeah.
we lived in the county, but
Right.
we received the benefit of city water sewer.
And
And
Windfall,
we paid a higher rate.
and Windfall, and that should be right, but Windfall is not the only people that do that. We also have other citizens that don't live in Hertford.
People who are outside the town limits.
But they're in our ETJ.
Right.
Right? So, that's
So it would make sense that we would have a different level of support for people who are not contributing to the immediate tax base.
absolutely.
Okay. Police force. I know you have very strong opinions regarding the disbanding of the town police force and then moving over into the county system. Summary.
I think that was the worst decision that any council has ever made to get rid of the police department, especially in this date of time. I'm a Democrat, and you hear people saying defund the police. I don't believe in defunding the police, and they actually, when you talk about defund the police, they're actually putting a different definition of what defund the police means. Defund the police means is we're not going to give the police all our money. We need to allocate some to mental health issues, proper training. Why are we buying? I mean, America's $1 trillion of debt in our military. Don't make it about money. We are paying trillions and billions, millions, hundreds, tens of dollars for us to turn around and defend this place called America, right?
Okay.
So when we're going, our deficit ain't going down. You seen our deficit going down?
Yeah, well, there's no way we can even pay back our interest right now.
And not even in my lifetime, right? So what I'm saying to you is, America, they're turning around and spending so much money and going backwards and defending us, right? In other countries. So Hertford is now, which if you look at our charter, our number one goal is protecting the citizens of Hertford. As a city councilman today, I cannot guarantee that I can protect you as a citizen of Hertford.
Okay, and the police force was disbanded before we moved into town.
Right, so...
how many patrol cars did we normally have on during the shift?
Well, I'm so happy that you said that. No, we had 3, we had 4 in the morning, 2 in the evening, sometimes 3, with a floating detective. And I want to talk about this, right? So, except for the mayor, every member of the town council of Hertford has been arrested, right? And what I would say is that me and Councilman Norman advocated. When you look at municipal government, we're supposed to be able to protect you and your wife. Excuse me.
You need a drink?
Sure.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it's all right. We'll get you a bottle of water here in a second.
It must have been touching.
Yeah, I got you all choked up talking about the police force.
Yeah.
So we have on average we had 3 patrol cars per 24.
Absolutely.
Okay. Currently we are 2.5. We'll be up to about 3 patrol cars once everything is fully staffed through the.
No, we had 13 total police cars.
No. I mean on a per 24-hour
yes.
rotation.
Yes.
Okay. So county will be about the same. Would that be?
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you, man. Thank you.
Response times. I know we've had some ups and we have some downs, and really it's been only less than 3 months of transition time in this.
Right, and it's been a horrible transition, I would say. I would say that I voted for our current sheriff. I would say that I have faith in our sheriff department. But when you look at the sheriff is elected, there's no accountability. The county commissioners, they can set the sheriff's budget, but they can't tell the sheriff how to do his job. When you look at a police force, Front Street, here where we got Church Street, we was having issues with speeding. When we was having those,
not an issue right now.
Well, not an issue right now, but we was able to get grant money, put up speed signs. We was able to get police officers to patrol. We was able to do all these other things that we was able to do because we had a police force. When you look at, hey, me and my wife is having a problem with so and so, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, chief, they're having a problem. Can we put a patrol car out? What can we do to help these citizens out? That's what the council was able to do. When you talk about reading books to kids, hey, that's what Hertford was able to show in their representation. When you look at so many other things, I'll give Dennis Brown this. When Dennis Brown came to the town of Hertford, he made us a promise. He said, I will have you fully staffed and I will have you with a good police force. He fulfilled his promise before he left here. We was fully staffed. We was at 12. We had good detectives. They was closing old cases. They was just doing so many wonderful things. We had a cadet program. The cadet program trained 2 police officers local in Hertford every year.
Okay.
Every year.
Well, I had the impression that the police force started to spread apart as we were coming up near this vote. Is that correct?
Yes. So they start dropping.
Okay.
And wouldn't you? I mean, you get.
Well, I mean, you were talking about morale. Maybe we
the
didn't have
morale.
a bay window large enough for them to see the water.
It came down 1 month, 2 months before the final vote was taken, where we made the motion to end the discussions of disbanding the police department. When it didn't, they knew they had to get jobs. And what I will tell you is, you have the role of a sheriff in North Carolina versus the role of a police officer, and that's very, very important. That's very important. And the role of the sheriff and the role of what he's supposed to do, he's not supposed to be in city limits doing that. I mean, Andrew Brown, right? Say his name, Andrew Brown. A sheriff came into the county with a warrant, whatever the details may be, didn't tell the city police anything, and a guy lost his life.
Right.
And there's no...
And the repercussions for the entire community from this.
Absolutely. And what I would say is that the citizens of Elizabeth City, who do they demand answers from? Not the county commissioners.
Right.
Because they didn't understand.
They wanted the town council.
They wanted the city council to turn around, and that's who they demanded answers for, because that's who elected, that's who they were used to dealing with, was the city council. Who got impacted $300,000 from the uprising of Andrew Brown? The city.
Right.
Because they protested around the city. Not one sheriff car, no county dollars. The city suffered. So if this sheriff make a mistake, which I hope that doesn't happen, but it's the reality.
But he does have the ability to serve warrants in Hertford now.
He can serve. Yeah. He can always. They serve warrants in Hertford. They serve search warrants in Hertford. They serve subpoenas in Hertford. They do those things.
But were they communicating with the town police force when they were doing so?
I can't answer that question.
Okay.
But I know that before we did have a police department, it was two home search warrants, and our police department wasn't involved. But I will tell you that if something devastating was to happen, Hertford signed a contract that we can't ask any questions. That's disheartening. It's disheartening that since the sheriff department has taken over, Hertford has had a total of 11 shootings. That's disheartening.
Is that part of a play of, and the term play is loosely used, but they're thinking, oh well, there's no quote sheriff in town, so we're going to do some things and see what's going on. They're testing the waters to see.
Well,
do you think that's part of it? Is that they were kind of testing to see how the response was going to be?
I don't know, but do we lose a life in the response?
Well, it's not worth losing a life, and nothing's worth losing a life.
And so when we think about money, I just say that Jerry, Ernie, and Ashley has not lived in the town of Hertford collectively. Well, now they're reaching their 10-year mark collectively, all right? And what I would say is that they have not been here to see the police force we had and how bad the police forces we had was. But we have truly begun getting a community police department where they came into all streets, all citizens. They came out. We had National Night Out against crime. Our police department was there. They did food giveaways. They just did so much for our community, right? And they lived in our community. Our police chief lived in the town of Hertford. So much they did in our community. When a guy was shot on King Street, police officer right there heard the gunshot before dispatch ever went out. That's policing. Before it ever went out, he was able to save that man's life.
Well, we also had something over at the courthouse that they heard shooting, and they were.
Well, it was
and that's recent.
A police officer. Well, funny you said that. A police officer was just patrolling,
right,
and smelled fire, and it saved half the downtown businesses. We can't negate that. When the fire upstairs, I mean, you had Woodard's, you had Gregory, if that police officer hadn't just rolled through and smelled fire, and our outstanding fire department, them guys came out middle of the night cold, and they got that fire down where it was just very minimal damage to other businesses.
But again, that's a matter of he was in the right place at the right time to deal with it.
Well, that's what city police do.
Right.
I mean, we have 8 streets total, and being able to just ride, be on the clock, and do that. Not saying that a sheriff can't do that. Not saying.
Be fair, I've seen the sheriff's car, driving up and down the streets at different hours.
I'm talking to the attributes of our police department and what they done in a short time under Dennis Brown. Just his leadership. getting structure. You guys didn't see the structure, man. I mean, you guys didn't see how we went from just officer, captain, corporal, sergeants, how just promoted, how these new guys came to cadets. Every time they see a way, we had people in the class from the town of Hertford. And being a police officer has declined so heavy joining the police force.
Well, a lot's been what's been portrayed in the national media.
Well, I mean, it's reality. You know, it's this black people getting killed with their hands up is reality. You know, and people say, oh, now it's coming out. Nah, they're just getting filmed now. It's just getting caught. And I'm not going to make, like, you know, this is one issue that I hate talking about, black on black crime. Black on black crime is the third leading deaths among African Americans in the United States. But white on white crime is double black on black crime. But nobody talks about it.
No.
Nobody talks about it. The only thing they say is, oh, you guys are complaining, but you're killing each other. And that's statistics. You know, I read.
But it's 14% of the population versus
Yeah.
a plurality of the population.
Absolutely.
So that's why, you know, if you look at percentage wise, it's
low.
Right.
So, but what I will say is that, when do we see past color? When do we see past? You know, I was fortunate. One thing about 2 weeks ago, I was at work and a lady flipped her car over. She had a pole. She flipped the car over. I was in Elizabeth City. And she was a Caucasian lady, and she didn't care what color I was. Her car was flipped upside down. She was an elderly woman, and she was hanging inside her car. And you seen black, white, Latino, U.S. Coast Guard, police, fire department, paramedics. She just don't let her hand go, you know. And I was amazed she got out walking, you know, with the damage to her car. And she turned around, and she just hugged me. You know, that's America. America is based upon us getting past color, us seeing that, and us getting the job done. When we had Hurricane Isabel, you know, you black, white, hey, you need this. We all went to the middle school. We all stayed in the shelter. We all looked out for one another. How beautiful would it be for us to be able to do that all the time in any issue? How resolute would it be for any issue for us to just see past color, man? And that's the thing that's holding Hertford back. It's knowledge, education, understanding one another. I can't sit here and tell you I understand how it is to work at a Fortune 500 company. I can't sit here and tell you how it's like sitting in D.C., living in D.C. I can't tell you how it is to live in Southern California or New York City or, you know, 9/11. I'm reminiscent of 9/11. It touched my heart. I can tell you that, you know.
how old were you in 9/11?
When 9/11 happened, I was in 11th grade.
11th grade. Okay.
And I'll never forget, I had a dentist appointment, and I was sitting down on the TV, and I just never forget that second plane, seeing it go into that building. But I will tell you that, you know, I'm a Democrat. I voted for Joe Biden, and us pulling out of Afghanistan the way we did, I lost a lot of colleagues and friends that were still soldiers, and I disagree with it. You know, and I say that to say when we lose a life or we lose a service member, it all hurts us, right? I've caught slack for not standing for the American flag, right? But what does the flag actually mean to a service member? Nobody can ever say that, because the service member actually only honors TAPS. You know, TAPS is ours. But when it talk about liberty and justice for all, where is it at? Let me feel it. And I said that. All my life I was trained to stand doing the Pledge of Allegiance. All my life.
Right.
You know, I respect the flag. I respect what it stands for. But when you look at the Star Spangled Banner, you know, they say mute this, mute that. It hasn't changed. You know, the sign that we no longer that says was by a slave owner. And when we truly become unified, let's not stand in vain. Let's not me and you have a conversation, and when the camera's off, we act like we're worse enemies because we live on different sides of the track. Let's live the things that we talked about. Even when you asked me, you know, I said I didn't know you from a can of paint, but I gave you the spiel then to say, hey, look, if we're truly you want to do this, let's do it. I'll make the time happen, right?
Right.
I'll take the time off from work and I'll come because it's genuine. But let it be on the up and up. I would love to come to Front Street, but you know what happened? People who don't even know me, friends that I went to school with, OT, I hate that guy. How can you hate me behind politics? That seat come and go. Hate the person, right? Hate the person because I've done something to you, but we're supposed to be this loving America. We're supposed to be that, right? I went to college. I fought and went to the country. I went to Kuwait. I was deployed. You understand what I'm saying? I woke up every morning. I wore the uniform. I support our police. I don't support defunding the police, right? That don't mean that me and you gonna ever agree on every issue or how to get every issue.
But it's our differences that make us stronger rather than weaker.
Absolutely.
And it's how we approach our differences, which leads me on to, I'm going to jump a topic here. Go back to the city council, because there is clearly a lot of differences within the current composure of the city council. And sometimes I think, couldn't that have been better handled before we sat down in the council meeting? Couldn't that have been dealt with in a different manner or fashion rather than, and I said this to a couple people. I know Councilman Norman wanted to go to a state function,
Yeah.
or was it in Idaho?
It was in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Okay, Utah, and the money was voted down, and I'm like, I was a little surprised. Okay, and this is coming from, and the reason is part of it is, to me, the political courtesy of saying, all right, and I was a little surprised by it, because we should all want our team, and it really is a team. Okay,
Right.
there's 5 members. Okay, the mayor is the quarterback, and when you have four people, doing the other roles, but it should be functioning as a team. And when you have a lot of division there, okay, do you want to be the Detroit Lions, okay, or do you want to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Okay, so that's how. Yeah, there's differences among the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they find a way to resolve them and work to win.
Well, I would tell you, just because I'm a football guy, I want to be Dallas Cowboy. I want to be America's team. I would love to be the council.
Well, my wife's going to kick you out of the house with you saying that.
But
So this is the last issue that Councilman Jackson will have here. It's been nice talking with you.
But no, in all seriousness, I want to be America's team. Believe it or not, and I want to talk about Salt Lake City, Utah. The town of Hertford is part of something called the National League of Cities. And they have 2 annual conferences every year. And they have this big one conference. And let me tell you the importance of it versus the state as well, right? And it's made up of towns, villages of the whole United States. And people will say, well, we can't afford to go to Utah. They make it affordable. And what people will say is that you go there and you get ideas from even this waterfront plan, right? I will go there and I will shoot it out, take the plan, talk to somebody who's already done the waterfront from a whole nother country. From a whole nother city, right? State, everything.
And I don't want to,
Yeah.
but I was a little surprised.
The courtesy is right. It's designed that way because even after the election is over, it's always after the election is over. It's designed so you to be able to say your last goodbyes, right? And to get your last hoorah in and your last whatever about the cities and your organizations that you may be a part of. And what I would say is, it was shocking. The money is there for travel. It would only cost, we had already $800. When you talk about money, they talk about my travel pack and how much that I've traveled for the town of Hertford. Me and Councilman Norman have never stayed at the host hotel. We find the cheapest hotels. They looking at all the records, but this is a story not being told, right? We stay at the
the report was a very interesting read, and I'm going to leave it at that. If people are curious, they can read it. But I want to finish covering our topics. That's why.
Well, I want to tell you about the topic. The report didn't say anything, and I do want to say that while in the window. What the report said is that questionable, and I want to tell you why it said questionable. Okay, it said questionable because we had a turnover 4 times in the finance department, not through to me. The information that they said that they didn't have was impossible not to have when the Perquimanslive Weekly and the Daily Advance printed it every other month.
And I have heard you make the same discussion from your podium.
Every month, it was getting printed. Texas came around. They said we got no data on why he went to Texas, right? But when I went to Texas and I received the award for having the best region, shout out North Carolina, right? They printed it in the paper all the way down to a $2 lemonade.
So and you have had your opportunity to speak on that, and like I said, I want to delve into the past.
But that I would say them not doing that for Councilman Norman, it shows the makeup of the council. It shows that what their concerns are, and none of them volunteered to go, and they should. We pay. It's like, are you going to pay the cable bill every month? You and your wife don't watch
Unfortunately,
TV?
I have to pay the cable bill. And the thing is, they just come around with the dice and go right out of the account. Let's talk about town manager. Okay. Our interim town manager that we are trying to fill the vacancy coming up.
And we will fill Wednesday.
Okay. And then going forward, what if you win re-election? what are you looking for the qualities in that town manager?
I'm looking for a town manager. I would actually like to see one that's fresh out of school, because when you get one fresh out of school, number one, it's cheaper. Number two, you can mold them to the city in which they are. Make no, you know, everybody.
So you want a moldy town manager?
Yeah, we want one that's able to mold. If you got a guy or a girl, female, whoever you have, they come in, and they was a city manager in Durham.
Okay.
They was a city manager in Charlotte.
It's a different. That's going from the lake and to your old fishing hole.
Absolutely. Okay. So they don't have the small town qualities.
Right.
They don't have. Look at the history of our town managers. The history of our town managers all was, from here, small town manager, because we were in a we wasn't in this form of government. We was in a council mayor form of government, where the mayor was the city manager. That many years ago, Bill Cox, I believe, was the last one before we switched over. But when you looking at a town manager, they need to understand the small town. They need to understand the budget. They need to understand all the things that that come up to it. And this quality, I don't want a town manager that's going to work for one side, but I also don't want a town manager to come into a situation where they have to divide it and pick sides. That is no good for the town of Hertford. And and a lot of times I know closed session, you guys don't see it, but if the mayor, if they're true to their word, they would tell you the conversations that I always had with them. The cameras are off. Let's get the business done of the town. I always had that conversation with them. You guys don't have to appeal to your base. You guys don't have to do any of the promises, And we had a retreat, and the retreat wasn't like that. It was. If you guys look, the retreat, we all sat down, we respected one another, and got a lot of work done, right? But it was no lights, camera, action. Right, we sat there, it was just us. It was no people. You didn't have to appeal to your base and explain why you're voting this way later or doing this and that. We didn't have to do that. So that's my major issue and topic. That I would just like to see in a manager when he comes, he or she. I don't want to get to say because I don't know who it is.
Now, and I've had this discussion with other citizens, other elected officials. When we get down to our town meetings.
Okay.
I think it would be, or potentially could be, more effective by having the town manager essentially say, Mayor, next item on topic is. And let them worry about the procedurals and let the mayor, okay, topic A is talking about this. And then they have a viewpoint, they have the view of the entire board, the entire council at one time. And when Councilman Jackson calls a point of order, or they're able to say, excuse me, we have a point of order, and they truly are experienced and litigated in that respect, so that we could stay on topic and try to drive through topics instead of, the minutes. My gosh, the minutes, I've never seen so much time taken to try to approve a set of minutes. And 57 pages, or however many pages the one meeting was. I would say, please view video time frame 2 to 6, and then we have the summary of what the point discussion and.
So I see you've been talking to the wrong people.
This was my opinion from my experience.
The 57 minutes was not from one particular. The 57 pages wasn't from one meeting.
Okay.
The 57 pages was from a slew of meetings that we kept recessing. So that's why it was so many pages that one particular time. But I would like to say what you're saying is supposed to happen already, but it's not supposed to be the job of the town manager. It's supposed to be the job of the town clerk, who happens to be the manager right now. And on all point of orders, the attorney is supposed to say, hey, wait a minute, you have to hear the point of order and rule on it. Now, I would just like to say, not putting down for the mayor, and let me make this perfectly clear on record. I support my mayor, right? It's one of those things where we're a family, and it's one of those things where if me and my brother may fight all day, but don't mess with my brother. That's the type of
okay. Okay, you're equivocating the mayor to being a family member for you.
Well, she is a family member.
Okay,
She's on the board together.
And there's some things that I have a sister. She probably doesn't admit it in public. Okay, but I do have a sister, and there's things that we say as brother and sister. Growing up, that we would never say, even within earshot of our parents, let alone others.
Well, that's why my mom don't come to council meetings.
Okay, okay. But I've heard some comments, and bothers me a little bit sometimes the way that our mayor is addressed. And I know this conversation's great.
Yeah.
And I know you're a good guy. Okay, from this conversation, you're a good guy, and I can't think it's really where your heart is. It sometimes just comes out very harsh.
So let's address the video, because that's what you're talking about. What you've seen in the video, right, is let's address it. It's some things that I shouldn't see it. All right, it's some things that even if I lost my cool, I shouldn't see it. But you've seen an edited video. You didn't see what was said to me. You haven't seen the mayor when she talked about my children and my children's mother. You haven't seen the mayor when she called me retarded. You haven't seen, and that's
Okay,
so
I've also been present in the live event.
Okay, so
and I've seen some things. And
elaborate. No, I want you to elaborate.
Okay, and I'm divorcing myself from the stuff that I watched on YouTube. I sense a hostility, and I also sense a frustration on both sides of the topic. Okay, I can sense from the mayor that she's getting frustrated with a point of order being called, and you're getting frustrated with trying, and we try to one up, and some comments are just they're a little harsher than I think the decorum of the meeting would encourage.
I want you to go look at our last video meeting when I had my comments and I had 5 minutes. It went 2 minutes and the mayor said, "Oh, that's it. That's enough talking." When you don't say something in politics that she don't want to hear, she cuts it short. Me and the Councilman Norman haven't been able to have an agenda item on the agenda in 6 months. They take it off every month. They get taken only our agenda items. They push the agenda that they want to push, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating because
I've heard you with those arguments.
Yes.
Okay, I have, and I can ask, why don't you share with
You have to you have to.
But what I'm saying, I submitted agenda item X.
It's on the agenda. When you get to the meeting, our items are on the agenda,
and we voted off.
Then they get voted off.
Okay.
And I will tell you that they know what our agenda items is, because the process is you must 4 days before the agenda go out have your agenda item in.
Right.
You must put what you want to talk about and the substance of it. That's their rules. Never have we ever been through this type of stuff before, but this is their rules. So we follow their rules, and we still get voted off. Now, just like earlier, me and you was talking about the lawn contract. If this is happening, the manager is happening. This is, what happened. I go back to 2 months ago. The city manager had items.
Right.
And they said, no, we don't want to hear your items.
Well, we are talking about the manager. That's
Right.
the one subject we're on.
Yeah.
A young manager that we could mold, I'm not sure would have the fortitude with dealing with some of the strong personalities that were sitting on opposite of them. So would we be better with someone who maybe isn't old crotchety, been there, done that, done the small town bit, and can actually hold their position and say, okay, listen, Councilman Jackson, Mayor, because we brought the mayor up the most during this discussion. This isn't right. This is what we're going to do. Would you be better with that, and maybe bring a clerk potentially in to have them, groomed to be a successor in 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think we need to rehire our clerk immediately. And she has a hearing coming up. I hope that every citizen comes to that hearing. She has 2 hearings coming up, actually. And I hope that every citizen is involved in that hearing. I hope the truth come out. And that's all I can say about that at this time. But I would like to say that I feel like Hertford has lost so many good pieces. Being finance, being public works. I mean, Mr. Bell, golly, we lost a great guy. He would have been a perfect successor to the city manager. Of course, we can't pay him what he's getting paid currently, but he'll be a perfect successor. He was there. He has the education. He's from a small town. He was already, doing some wonderful things in public works. I thought that he would have been a great city manager. But when you talk about a guy that, he's going to do it his way. One of the things that when I got on council, the council didn't travel. The council was just stuck. This is the way to do it. This is the way you're going to do it. And when we went to ethics, the first day you meet all these people from across the state, and they said, that's going to be your number one thing. Your number one thing is going to be that you cannot, they stuck in their ways, and the way that council's been done, that's the way it's always going to be done. And that was Hertford.
Right.
You know, I came to the meeting, I won election, got sworn in. I was handed the iPad 1 during the iPad 6 generation that you had to keep plugged up, and you're a council member. What's your opinion? But I'm making these opinions, and I have no knowledge. And that's one of the things that I said that I wish that this council would done when they got elected. I would love for this council to get on the road to actually talk to people and learn. And, you know, even point of order, you never heard point of order until they got elected, because, you know, it's a tool. The rules that you just hear, we never heard them before. And then they cater the rules to make sure they're like them. And a manager coming in from another city, he's going to say, wait a minute, you know, we don't want to blow his head off.
Which is the exact reason why I'm saying the manager clerk should be more have the ability to corral what's going on.
But the charter gives the mayor certain powers, and governing the meeting is one. I love for the mayor to govern the meeting. I just want her to govern, number one, effectively, to know her role, to know her job, and to be fair with everybody. You know, I think that it taking 30 or 40 minutes just to get a meeting started is ridiculous. You know, and I think that's something that everybody can agree on, that it's ridiculous for us to have to be 30, 40 minutes. You know, I just stopped trying to put items on the agenda after a while, and no matter how the election goes, I'm just going to speak my piece, and I'm going to be Quentin Jackson. And then
So you'll get at least still 5 minutes.
I'll get my 5 minutes.
Town image.
Yes.
Okay. I spoke in the town council meetings saying, well, these are the couple things that that concern me moving down here. How would you look to improve someone looking to come here from the outside? Okay, hopefully they are, you know, someone who's going to be contributing to the economy, move here permanently, and want to be involved in the town of Hertford. What would you look to? How do you view? How would you package Hertford for?
Well, my spiel is small town with a big heart, Councilman Norman would say, and I would turn around and say that, you know, Hertford is the seventh oldest town in the state of North Carolina. We was the last operational S-Bridge, which is gone, in the United States. Well, you know, you got Jim Catfish Hunter, you have Michael Bonner. We now got a great football team, man. You know, it's been so long since I played, and we had a winning season, a winning formula. Our education system, we need to do better. But our image of Hertford is centered around the town council. And if they see the leaders not being strong and not being structured and all over the place, how can we expect citizens not to act how we act if we're supposed to lead by example of being in the leadership? You know, I'm a father, so it's a tough conversation for me being a black father, because my kids, I had to move them away from Hertford. It cost me to have a different house for them to be able to go to school in a different district just about fearing Hertford. You know, it's different when a person moves that want to contribute on where they're going to live at. You know, I was talking to a guy from Albemarle Plantation the other day. He said, my phone keeps ringing. I said, it must be probably a bill collector. He said, I don't know what one of those are. You know, and that threw me for a loop, because I'm like, well, I guess me and you is you know, not the same, you know, but I understand that it depends on what you're looking for when you move in this image. You came and you said everybody's welcoming, and I said, hey, you know, we'll get to know everybody. You know,
so you're going to tell me that some people aren't going to be welcoming to me?
Well, some people it depends on how you come off at them. You know, I got a lot of phone calls from the city council meeting, and they said, who do these people think they are, coming asking why are you late, this and that, you know, asking Councilman Norman, not me. You know what, they ain't even been here to know what's going on. And it's reality. Hertford put a mechanism to say, if you're going to change the meeting time, you have to do it by a supermajority. That means that every council member must agree, right, outside of the mayor, right? Supermajority. Three council members. Now, what happened is you changed the time, and it said, I don't care what the other two say. So after it failed the first time, it's a rule to say, well, if the supermajority don't pass, just bring it back and just get a majority. And
that's illegal finagling of how we get a budget in D.C. too.
Well, right. Well, you know,
okay,
so I understand that, but then you don't ask to strain. You don't care about nobody else's job. You know, you're working home. Ernell retired. You know, Jared works at the base. You know, Hodges works from home. You know, so
also some of the town council meetings, from what I understood, they were running fairly late.
And well, they was running the same time, but if you just push it back an hour, we was talking 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. You know, some 3, we was in there 2 o'clock in the morning, dog tired, not getting stuff done, but people not understanding why. because the town council in previous meetings, right, they didn't get the information that we got now. When I got on council, we weren't getting this information. You would get 5 little things. The manager will handle everything, and then it was just vote yay, nay, and go home. Now it's like you got all these high agenda topic items.
You're making,
Yeah.
you're doing a lot of the town managers.
Well, not a lot of the town manager's business, but a lot of stuff that we get the manager that we were seeing, we had to pump brakes because you got to understand the manager then was doing things the council knew nothing about, which should have been the council decision, or at least we should know about it.
So now there's more accountability.
There's more accountability to say, hey, the manager ain't just gonna run rampant and say, hey, we're gonna tear your house down. Because think about it, even the housing thing back then, it was just the city manager identified the house they wanted to knock down, they tore it down.
Right.
We just approved it, but we wasn't making any money. The attorney made all the money. We was at the end of the year doing all those projects. When we looked at the books, Hertford was in the red from tearing down people's houses. And so that's reality.
Well, that's also government in action some days.
Yeah.
No offense, I know you're in government. Finances.
Yes.
Where is your assessment of where the town sits financially going forward? We've talked 85% reserves to now down to 15% reserves.
We're broke, and I would just like to say we have over $1 million in fund balance. I mean, not fund balance. I said it wrong. Over $1 million in electric rates, which is great. But we also want to do this water and sewer, electric, move everybody to smart meters. And getting smart meters, we know that it's going to take a lot of the chunk out. We have half of the town now going to the smart meters. But what I'll say is,
and so smart meters would. We eliminate a position of someone going by and checking the meters, or
no, we wouldn't eliminate a position, but versus it'll be on the iPad. When you don't pay your bill, it'll be hit by a button. Your numbers will be red because now we're actually having to take guys off and rotating them from doing stuff to come read individual meters.
Okay.
Where the smart meter will read itself.
All right.
And we're only on that on electric. We're trying to get down to water, and we wasn't losing money in water and sewer. And I don't know how we so distressed. We have not been on the distress list. That is a rumor. They said if we continue going how we go, we will end up on this list. But everybody just putting out, we're distressed, we're not. But we also have not applied for not one grant, right? So you're so distressed, but you haven't applied for one grant that's out there.
Could the $1 million reserve we have in electric be utilized to
only for electric? Only for electric. You can only use their restricted funds.
Okay, as a utility.
As a utility, right?
Okay, so it couldn't be used for water.
You can't use it for that. You can only use it for electric things. Water and sewer has its own little thing, and that's electric related. So we pay our linemen with that. Poles, lighting, all this and that. That's what we pay with that reserve money. But you can't touch it. You go to jail quick.
Yeah. Well, we don't want any council members to end up in jail.
Yeah.
Okay. Honestly, we really don't. So beyond the $1 million there, and you said Hertford's broke.
Yeah.
How do we fix it?
So we fix it by being fiscally responsible. That's how you fix it.
Are you looking to cut services?
I don't want to
or increase tax.
I don't want to cut any services, but we must increase taxes. But we also have to do that responsibly. We also have to understand that we can't raise taxes and run the people out that came here away, right? And what I'm saying is, with one of the lowest tax rates, taxes should not be the only way that we are relying on revenue. I don't think that's the only way. I think we need to look at other avenues. I think through these grants, grants is going to help Hertford majorly.
Okay.
And go ahead.
Let me ask, taxes, sales tax. I was a little surprised because it's different than where we came from. Yeah. Sales tax, the state is at 6%, and then is it the county or
the county and the town? We all get something.
Okay. The extra 0.25% that we pay here. Okay. Does that come to Hertford itself?
All of our taxes, let me explain this. All of our taxes go to the county, and the county writes us a check. Okay. So that's how that works. So,
all right.
A lot of people don't know in our ABC, our alcohol. Yeah. We get money from the alcohol that our ABC has been doing.
And Councilman Norman, I saw a couple meetings ago. Oh well, it's a really great revenue, which I have to say from my background and experience, knowing the alcohol industry fairly well,
That's
an exception to the rule when you
Right.
factor in all the other expenses.
Right, and if they ever legalize marijuana here, I think if they do it the way that they was talking about it, us regulating it, I can see a major economic boom in just doing that.
So would you support a growing facility within
Absolutely,
the community then?
absolutely. If it's
Okay.
legal, I support it. Now the thing that I will tell you is that I necessarily don't want it somewhere, say across from Sitco we talked about earlier on the highway. I would like it to be somewhere controlled on where we allow it away. Kids.
Well, we had a mill, so to speak, in our county where we moved from, and that is now a growing facility.
Right.
And you can't buy from them.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
they manufacture and then it's sent to
It's
the
sent-
dispensaries.
yeah.
And it's reuse. And having driven around, there's a lot of buildings here that we
A lot of land
could
yeah.
repurpose, or even a new structure. So right now we don't have two pennies to rub together.
Absolutely
Is
not.
what you're saying.
Right.
Okay, and that's even the new funny pennies that don't look real. Okay, code enforcement. I know this is a divisive topic, and we've already talked a lot about the code enforcement.
Right.
Do you see a pathway to a resolution that we can have homes that people live in meet code, is safe and viable, and there are resources in the community? If your mom still had her place,
Right.
okay.
Well, my mom has it. My
Well,
grandmother's
the home that
329
you
Market,
lost.
yeah,
Okay. If that home was still there, because you said it was torn down.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
torn down.
If there was if there was a fund pool,
Yeah.
okay, or a community network there that's saying, listen, what we needed to make that house to bring that house up
Okay.
was, we needed to address the water coming in.
Right.
Okay, so we have some people in the community that go together, and there's some resources there to buy the materials, and the plumbing gets fixed. Is that a way to get there?
So it is a way to get there, and I do want to say this: even if you code enforcement, let's deal with code enforcement. I don't see us having adequate code enforcement without a police department. This just
Well,
we won't have adequate code enforcement. Let me tell you why. Because if a house is up to code, it's up to the sheriff to enforce municipal code, right? We can't hold him accountable and add a task to him because we've already signed a contract that we can't. Now, the building inspector is the other way, but by law, a building inspector can't go in nobody's house. So, that's another thing. Now, you asked, was there a way to help these people fix their houses? Absolutely. The community block grant. The people came down.
That we don't have anyone to write.
To write the grant.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, that's back to grant writing. They came down, Miss Irish Payne. They had an open meeting at there, and they said, hey, Hertford, y'all never applied for the money. The money's there.
So if we took the money that we had set aside for a code enforcement agent, and we applied it towards a grant
The
writer,
grant writer will pay their sale because if you find
eventually, but you have to have the money up front to begin.
Well, you can take what's called a 4% administrative fee off top of the grant.
Okay.
And that pays your grant writer all in itself back to the town because the town pays the grant writer, right? It's a reimbursement thing. So even if you get them, it's a way to say, hey, look, you can hire this grant writer and you can pay them a salary, right? Every year, here's a salary. They type and type and type, but you're gonna get reimbursed off every grant you're awarded for your grant writing fee. It's like it's right there for you for the giving. And it bothers me when people also talk about the police force and how much money they was costing because they're putting more money into police departments than ever before and training and all that, and we didn't identify any grants.
Is this a temporary thing, or is this
I hope not.
something that's long? Okay,
I
so
hope not.
you see that there's a potential that
I see it the first sign of light that we're gonna get a police department back. At the first sign of light, and I don't know
how long is the current contract?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
So we have another two years before it becomes a topic of discussion again.
Well, no, not necessarily. We have a contract with the sheriff, and that's fine. But what it says is that he will take over police in Hertford. It doesn't mean we can't have a police department. It just means that we won't be able to have as many numbers as we have at the amount of money we're paying them. So meaning if we pay them 106 and I saving 200, it may come down to us getting a chief and 2 officers, right? But we still they still are obliged to do their part as well for the town of Hertford. That's what we're paying them for.
Okay, so they could be integral into dealing with the code enforcement at that point in time.
Absolutely.
Because that was a point you made at the
Yes.
last council meeting is, well, we don't have any way to enforce it because the sheriff's not sheriff's not obligated to do it.
Absolutely.
Okay, and you just made the point about the building inspector. He essentially is, outside looking in.
Absolutely.
Okay. Last question, and we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
Okay, and if you want to talk about more, we can. Next 10 years in Hertford, paint a picture of what you would like to see Hertford look like.
So, that's a great question. I had a poster, and every day I try to write what Hertford is going to look like in 10 years. I try to write what Hertford look like in 5 years. And I see that Hertford can go only as far as we take it. It's hard to tell, but we need to do something. And we all agree on that. Be it waterfront, being whatever, Hertford needs to do something, and we need to make our identity for ourselves. But I do see we have our water basin growing. I do see we have a lot of land opportunity. I would like another housing development of some sort to come. The interstate, whether we know it coming or not, I mean,
the infrastructure bill is up in the air.
It's so, yeah.
Okay, and if the interstate, even if the infrastructure bill passes, we're still 5 to 10 years before you could see.
Well, you said 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Legitimately, and it may not go through Hertford. It could bypass us completely.
Well, we've only seen one thing that could bypass Hertford. One drawing only showed bypass Hertford, and it would be crazy to do. And that's the one thing that Hertford has is that we're a hub. Hertford, people think once you get to the McDonald's, you're in Hertford. They don't know how, further back that you are really in Hertford. And I would love for our 17 to be booming. Because when you come off the bridge, either way you come on 17 or you come through our downtown, we have to find something there to attract people to say, hey, let me turn this cool little spot. We remember Food Line used to close at 11 o'clock. I remember those days they used to be open 24 hours. And then we went down to 11 o'clock. We've seen so many people, Food Line's open. Let me just stop in this cool place because it's open. Imagine driving your family late night. You're in the hub. You're halfway to Virginia. You're halfway going to Raleigh. Here's a nice hotel. We could just stay in Hertford because we stopped and got some food. You know what, honey? We're tired. I mean, how many times had that happen to us?
Well, I'll be honest with you. When we went to look at the house the first time, we had one restriction. Our dogs travel with us. Yeah. We ended up staying in Chesapeake. Yeah. And commuting down here because I couldn't find a hotel in Hertford, and then to find someone that would take animals was another. And the animals are my burden, but Elizabeth City, I couldn't find anyone that would take it. So it's
Quality Inn takes animals, man.
Okay, well, it didn't hit my radar screen when I was googling, but hospitality here, we have no nightlife. And I'm not saying that, we need to put dancing girls out into the street. Okay, but,
we have the place on the corner, the tap house.
The tap house, but they have limited days of operation. We have a pizza place that outside town that has, he's still in town limits, but
Tommy's great.
Yeah, Tommy's is a good place to go, and we've been there multiple times. But, they have different hours of operation. If I want to go and grab a bite to eat in downtown Hertford, which can be the pulse of what our economy can be, we don't have very many choices. And when I say we don't have very many, it's one, and that's based upon the nights that they're open. Yeah. So to get things like that into town, I presume you feel that's an important thing, or
it's absolutely important, but safety is also important. We understand that we've had problems with our nightclubs in Hertford. We've had them, but I want them. I want nightclubs, I want bars, I want diversity, but I want us to stop stigmatizing these nightclubs. Like certain people think, I can't go to the tap house because it's white only, or some people say, hey, I can't come here because black. Let's kill the stigma, right?
Okay.
And like I was telling people, when I got on council, I was like, there's nothing to do in Hertford. And somebody said, yeah, sure it is. You can go to the library. Go to the library.
Well, the library's nice, and I encourage everyone to check a book out here this week.
Well, I read, but I just go on Amazon Kindle and I read,
now you're crushing the library.
No, what I'm saying is it's a good tool. But what I was explaining to is if you are a kid or a teenager, right? Mm-hmm. And number one, I got a phone that I can do everything on. I mean, we have to face reality. And I go to school every day. You think I really want to come home and go to the library? I'm being real, and
Right.
we have to be realistic. Now, if I love just reading books and I can go home and I don't want to buy them and I read them, I exchange. And Councilman Norman, who loves to read books and always push books and push me to read books. So if we understand that that I like to read and that's something that okay, but am I gonna read a book every day and just go to my library every day? Am I gonna when we look at even the rec center, right? The rec center was a poor decision in location. It was a poor decision for Hertford. It was a poor decision for our kids.
We finally found it.
Okay.
Okay, we are expanding
You
our,
learned it,
our
yeah,
driving
horizon,
range,
yeah.
and we've passed by it so many times, but
Yeah.
we never realized it was there.
Yeah, so I just want to say that it's way out there. So the average school kid can't walk to the rec center.
No,
The average,
no.
the average person. I mean, it was poorly. It is what it is. But there's no exercise room. There's no gym room. You can walk around the track. Surely it's a basketball court, a skate park, and all that out there. But the location was poor, right? I would love to have seen it. The old rec center was where we meet at now. That used to be the recreation
Okay.
center. So I would love to have seen where Memorial Garden is, which is beside the old library. We could have built a nice recreational facility there, right in the center of Hertford. They're still in city limits. The rec center is still in city
Right.
limits. We probably wouldn't have had access to the baseball field, but hey, we could have worked it out. And I just think that us looking at where Hertford expects to go, we have to now give people an incentive. We put bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. Can you imagine us going to Pepsi saying, "Hey, Pepsi, we're sorry, but we want to come back now."
Oh, it's too late. They've already poured the foundation.
Or the peanut battery.
The town where we left from, it had a disturbing policy that was put into place, I guess probably early 2000s. What was historically black neighborhoods.
Right.
They have passed legislation preventing newer businesses from opening. And our town, as I said, it's diverse, similar to Hertford. And it kind of hinders businesses from developing. Hertford doesn't have anything like that for historically the black part of town. Do we have any legislation that's preventing people from opening businesses there and trying to support those communities?
We don't, but what black business owners understand in Hertford, they don't get the full support that they would if they was a white business, and that's reality. I fuss about this. We have signs that say shop local and buy local.
Right.
And I don't feel that everybody does that. And I feel like if the Hertford was to get a true bar or a nightclub and dominant urban, whatever comes, I don't feel that it would be welcoming to everybody. And I mean, that's just my personal opinion. The owners of the Tap House, the Gunthers, I think they're very nice people. They've never treated me any malice or anything, regardless of my political affiliations. But when you look at we've always made do. We had a nightclub one time in an old house. It was a problem, music too loud in a residential zone. We had one. We had
that can be a problem. Yes.
We had a triple shooting at one nightclub that we had for some people from out of town. But once Hertford has always had a great nightlife from downtown. But the revenue, I just tell them, even though you have some troublemakers come from other cities, you get them here. Now you have to keep them here. And you should have somewhere to build. Elizabeth City is doing an excellent job. And their population, even though the county went down, Elizabeth City went up through the census data because they're building. You look over there by Walmart, they're building. Look behind Walmart, they're building. You look here, they're building.
Yes.
They're building homes. So a lot of those were through grants and enticement. But Elizabeth City is running out of space. So in 10 years, where Hertford has the space because it's going to start coming. Dollar General just built at the way station, right? So they're going to come. Them farmers ain't giving up their farmland. So they have to find somewhere, but we have to grow in population. And what do we do when our city has been 2,200 people for so long? How do you entice these people to go? Not prepare for retirement life.
But you are born and bred local.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. How does one such as yourself, who's born and bred in this area, embrace the people such as ourselves who have moved in from, hundreds of miles away? How do you look for when people move into the community? What are you looking for your fellow citizens as they join in?
So, regardless of color, regardless of race, regardless of religion, what I look for is to come out and everybody scream, shout, hello to everybody, right? And when you see me, I'm always smiling. I always speak.
Is that the Botox working on the corner of your lips?
Nah, man.
Okay.
It's like, when people, when I meet people, a lot of people don't know me unless I got a suit on. They don't know, hey, that's Quentin Jackson. You know, if
Well, I have to say, I'm impressed with your threats. Okay, they're very nice.
Yeah, I try to be, but a lot of people don't know me outside of that. And I've been in the room sometimes when people didn't know who I was, and when I tell them who I was, their whole dynamic perception changed just because of who I was.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you that I got a lot of classmates. Some of them are doctors. We have two, valedictorian, Don Moran, he's a doctor, private practice. Ashley Brothers, she's a PAC. She's up in the DC area. She's practicing. We got about 4 doctors that I know of that's from Hertford, right? Dr. Lane can't practice forever. You know, he birthed me and my mom. So, you know.
Yes, we're in the process of finding a doctor in the area that takes our insurance. So that's
so doing that, you know, I understand that. What would it take for? And I had that conversation. And what would it? Ain't nothing in Hertford. Well, why have you come out practice? Ain't no money. Ain't nothing in Hertford. Economically, right? Hertford has to do that. And I just building nursing home facilities. And one of the guys that said was, you see that waterfront we got, the steel we got on the price where the new assisted living facility is. But imagine that was your bed and breakfast. Imagine, you know, just imagine.
Mm-hmm.
But they took the initiative to say, I understand. And he said, I'm going to build some more. You know, he said he wants to add on and build another side once that side gets flowing and operational how it's supposed to be. And so I just think that, you know, taking out Missile Mill Park, Missile Mill Park has been the same since I was a little kid. You know, the only thing I think that added to Missile Mill Park since I was a kid was the boardwalk. It wasn't always a boardwalk there.
I hope they upgraded the gym equipment at some point in time.
Well, same. Everything has been the same.
Okay.
The same swing set. I got pictures on it from when my kids were little. Now my kids 15. So you know, it's like the new little play area in the front that was changed, but it wasn't nothing but a swing set out there for so long, and the same water and fishing. And then they added the one pier was there, but then they added the boardwalk, and that was it. You know, that was it.
Across from Missing Mill Park is the basketball court that we talked about earlier.
Absolutely.
Okay, which during daytime, it's great. But the sun's setting, about 6 o'clock now?
Yeah.
Okay, and only thing we have is the regular street lights that do not provide enough illumination to have a good, 3-on-3 game.
So, understand that if I'm a kid and I go to school at 3, I want to make the basketball team. I just got cut. I get off the bus 4:30.
Yeah.
That gives me an hour and a half to play basketball if I need some relief from going through stress all day. If I don't have,
I can't imagine school being any stress on anybody.
Well, you know, I'm just saying, you know, you look at an hour and a half of basketball play, you know, and I know you don't know that you just got here. The basketball court used to be chain locked. The only facility chain and locked, both of them. They were chain locked, and police officers used to kick those kids off the basketball courts.
Okay.
And that was
then.
That was then, and I got on council, and I voted that police officers no longer do that, and we took the locks and chains off the basketball courts. And I had the video. My phone is dead, but I'll show you the videos. I went to every baseball field in this town, all 12 of them, and I turned the lights on and said, why is the disparity that the volleyball court right across got lights on? Why is the disparity that every baseball field, soccer field, everywhere got lights, and just flip a switch? And guess what? The lights comes on. You know, what does that say about the town of Hertford?
So we have that court there. Is there any other court?
King Street.
King Street, okay.
And let me tell you the history about that basketball court, okay? In 2001, maybe 2000, that basketball court was built. Like I said, that was our recreation center. And I remember as a kid, us police being called, said the basketball was too loud, us dribbling the basketball, and we had to put our shirts on. We was little kids, shirts all sweating, and we had to put our shirts. And the police was called on us, and they said, "Oh, you gotta leave." And I remember on the summer days going to that basketball court, and the locks on it, and they said, "Oh well, the rec center is closed," and the chains was on them. Worst thing in the world. And I remember that it was so many black and white kids out there. The persona of, we got to get them off Grove Street. And they built the one on King Street, and we got 2 basketball courts there in a year.
Okay.
And I remember I went to a town council meeting about it, and they was letting us know it was ran by the county, and they said, y'all need to find somewhere else for them to go. And that stick with me every day. Every day.
For them to go.
For them to go. And it was no secret. You know, y'all need to find, and that basketball court went up like that. So instantly we had 2 basketball courts up like that.
But still no lights.
Still no lights. And we still, for a while, because one is longer than the other, we still, at a certain time, the police was called. When we was on King Street, we could play all night. Never no police call. We used our car lights then, bike lights, and we would put them on the fence so everybody could see.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've done a couple soccer games that way in the past.
So I, you know, that was Hertford, and that's the history that lives in me. But
this is a different Hertford now.
Well, what's different about it?
You're on council. You weren't on council back then.
Ask me why I ran for city council. Let's have.
I thought we covered that.
No, you asked me why did I want to be reelected.
Okay.
You never asked me why I initially ran.
Okay.
For city council.
What pulled you out of the woodwork to throw your name on a ballot?
One night, I'm a DJ. One night I was leaving a party, and I was riding down King Street. I had a 1996 Chevrolet Caprice, had rims on it, had pipes, you know, good sound system in it. And at this time, we was leaving from the party, and about 3 guys jumped in front of my car. Hey, yelling and screaming. Hey. Yeah, help me. We got to get to the S Bridge. The guy drunk. My cousin done flipped over outside the S Bridge. He done flipped over the S Bridge, and we don't know if he living or he dead. So I'm like, oh my God. They hop in my car, and I go about 70 miles per hour from King Street to in front of Wood's Pharmacy. And I remember blue light. I ran the red light. Blue lights got behind me and stopped. And I remember that it was Officer Eddie Gilbert. And I went to school with him. And there's 4 black guys now in a Caprice. And we're yelling and we're screaming at them, hey, we're trying to get to the S Bridge. And I just remember us yelling. And I remember this day like it was yesterday. And we're yelling. Hey, we got to get to the S Bridge. We got to get to the S Bridge. We got to get to the S Bridge. And we was like, everybody was trying to explain. So I know it was kind of like discombobulated for him. And he was a sheriff. I'm sorry, he was a sheriff at the time. And by this time, all these police cars came and surrounded us. And they drew their guns on us. Everybody put your hand in the air, and everybody was still screaming. We're trying to get to the bridge to help this guy. Like, we were all screaming. At this time, they just pulled us out the car with guns on us. And they put us in handcuffs. And all I did was ran a stoplight. So finally, we're screaming and yelling, and hey, this ain't right. And they got guns pointing at us and saying, hey, you know, just get right. And one of the police officers said, hey, I'm going to just go down and I'm going to see, you know, their store, you know, check out what's going on. And Eddie Gilbert, who was a sheriff at the time, never drew his weapon. Only the city cops. He knew us. We all went to school together. And I remember going on the radio and they calling for EMS and said blood is everywhere. And it's a car sitting on the S Bridge that flipped off the S Bridge that was just holding on and the bridge was popping it up. And I remember them instantly starting to unhandcuff us. I didn't get a citation.
Right.
I didn't get anything. Everybody went to the city.
We didn't want down the police blotter.
We didn't want it, right. And so I remember I was so mad that night just at them pointing guns because we was a police force who knew everybody. We knew everybody. It's Hertford. If you get a new officer, you know, hey, that's a new officer. You greet, you meet. And I remember the next day, Sid Ely was the mayor. I asked some people, who should I go see? Go talk to the mayor about it. And I remember Sid was also the director of the Chamber of Commerce. I remember going to City Hall. They sent me to the chamber. I remember going to the chamber. And I remember beginning to tell my story. And I remember him saying, hold up, wait a minute, start screaming at me. We're going over to the police department. And I remember the police officer saying, well, we wasn't unsure about the situation. But I was only pulled over for running a red light. I remember him saying, well, you just need to be more mindful. Next time, let us do our job. That sit on me every day in the town of Hertford.
And this is the same police force that you want to see reinstalled.
And well, that guy later, Hertford, had to go through a lawsuit because it beat an unarmed black man with a fire helmet. And I remember when I left, me and Sid went back to the chamber, and he said, let me pray for you. And that was it. No accountability. Mm-hmm. Well, imagine if there was body cameras back then. Imagine if I had got shot that day. Imagine then. So I started going to every city council meeting after that. And at first I was shy. I wouldn't say nothing. But then I started
You were shy?
I was shy.
Okay.
And I wasn't seeing nothing. I got in. I said, hey, I'm going to run. I lost. I got 74 votes. I lost. The 2 incumbents remained beaten. Then I remember running again. I was focused on, I'm going to run. because I want to make sure these things never happen to anybody else. And I remember Ed Lane and Lydia Holman. And I remember us the first year all out together talking, this and that, and I ran. And I remember us how friendly everybody was. Even though I lost, everybody was friendly and together. Then I remember I wasn't as serious as I thought I was going to be out at the polls, and I was just laid back, so I'm going to do this, and I had a plan, and everybody just come and vote for me. Well, didn't go well the second time. But that third time I ran, I remember winning. And I remember the night I won. And I remember them saying that I couldn't win. Because I went from being on the streets of Hertford, hanging out, doing this and that. It was impossible to win. But every day I take that with me that, that happened to me in the town of Hertford. And when people say it can't happen, it won't happen, you're looking at sheriff department, no body cameras, no accountabilities. I can go on about different stories and different involvement with the police force, but if you don't sit there and you don't be part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
Yes, you are.
These people come to city council meeting, and when I say these people, black, white, indifferent, and they just, oh, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong. Well, how do you know?
Well, I was intrigued by another council member at the last meeting, basically calling out the freshman people who have recently moved to town, taking to task that, well, you really don't know what's going on. I've tried to educate myself. I can't speak for the others that spoke, but I tried to educate myself. I was trying to, walk the tight wire of not insulting anyone, but at the same point, conveying my point. I take offense to, well, you're a new guy, you don't know what's going on. I will admit, there's a lot of things I don't know. We've talked about some things today that were revelations to me. The reason why you got into run was I didn't know the background story to it, and I appreciate it. But that's what I feel when you join in a community, you need to get invested in the community, and that's not just the investment of the people who are the 5 houses surrounding you. Okay, the community exists, and it's not just the block that's around. It's an entire community. When I mentioned about where I was from, about them essentially putting blockades to allowing businesses to go into those communities. I was offended by that. I never knew it existed. It wasn't something that appeared in our local newspaper. I mean, we have a daily newspaper instead of a weekly newspaper there. It wasn't something that appeared in a headline. It was just something kind of put in. It was years ago, and everyone just kind of forgot about it. So as the stores, the mom and pops, they said, listen, I can't be competitive anymore because Walmart's beating us. Okay, they have a bus that's running out there, or my friends have a car and we can go out there, together to go to Walmart and pick up something, and they're not going to Thelma's anymore. It was kind of they discovered a house there, a log cabin had been boarded all up. Okay, they had siding on it. Oddly enough, it was a police cruiser. Had an accident across the intersection and damaged this building. We discovered that this building actually dates back to the founder of our town. Wow. And his family had moved it to its current site, and the neighborhood, which was previously German immigrants, had migrated and become, pre-Civil War, became the black community in town and the history that built up around it. So, those types of things, okay? If you moved into the town that we moved from, you would never know that, okay? But it's those type of things that are important to the identity of a community. And that's where our council members and local, not just council members, but local community people need to share the history.
Well, that's why I say about not knowing actually history behind what they're doing and being insensitive. Right, you can make an insensitive comment, and because you never lived through it, or you never been through it, or you're not struggling with it, you don't understand, the nature of what it may be doing to somebody else, or how you're harming somebody else, or somebody else's trauma behind a situation that happens. I do think that all of our current candidates got me by 20 years, right? So
there you go. You're taking a knock on old people again.
No. What I'm saying is, but what they may love to do and what they may call recreational and what may be thing for them may not be the thing for the up and coming to make students or anybody else want to remain in Hertford. And that's reality. Like, if you get all these people and you just want to send them to college and never come back, that's what you do. But if you want to plan for 10 years down the way when somebody may be in gone, nursing home, deceased, anything, what do you how do you intermingle?
Who's going to visit them in the nursing home in 20 years? That's what you're saying, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well,
because their families moved, because they don't have family necessarily in the community.
Right.
And if they want to stay. I guess one of the things, you said college. And see, I don't believe that college is the ultimate solution for students going from high school. Sometimes they need to take some time away. Sometimes they need to develop skills. Maybe it's turning a wrench on a car, painting, whatever. There are strong vocational skills that don't require college. And college is a great aspiration, but not all families are in position to send. When our kids went to college, my condition was, I will pay for your room and board. You will pay for your education. So if you're paying for your education, the hope was they would stick with it and that they would finish. And it worked out. For one of my kids, it worked out. And for two of my kids, they did some college, and they started a career that didn't require college, and they're providing for their families.
So I want to say that it's reality in America today that trade school, you can go to trade school, come out debt free, and you can have a great job off of going to the trade school. And college isn't for everybody. And then what I will say is, when you look at the disparities in between lawyers, district attorneys, judges, all that requires college education, when you look at the qualifications of being clerk of court, when you look at magistrates, when you look at everybody else that's in our legal system, it's a certain perception that you must do. And when you look at 90% of lawyers are Caucasian, and only 8% are African Americans. That says that somewhere college had to play an important role.
Well, I met two African American jurists yesterday. So yeah.
So they got you early, and I just want to say that when I look at trade school, I would love to have a trade school here. I would love to have a job training here. But what is the town doing to do that? Because everything the waterfront property is doing is basically for recreation.
Now, is that something that our county school system could get invested in and start doing a vocational tech school?
Well, they do that already. You already can get your CNAs there. You already can get your firefighter certificate there. There's a couple of other things that you can already get. And we have graduated in Perquimanslive County more people with a 2-year degree than ever before. And that's
so
great.
We have accelerated degrees at the high school.
Yes,
Good.
All right. Yeah. So we do have that through the college. So I think that's great. And I think that for a person, you and your wife moving to Hertford, certainly I want you guys to always seem welcome, whether I'm Councilmember Jackson or just Quentin Jackson. I'm always a phone call, earshot away of anything that you guys need. But what I say is that what bothers me is that a lot of times people who move to this town, who comes to this city, who everything, it's so discouraging when you just get with a group of people who always label a person as bad. Me and Mr. Morrissey, who I had an altercation with, when he first came to town, we sat down, we talked, we stayed outside City Hall about an hour just talking. Then I took him to lunch one day, just to have, understanding of two men, and for things just to play out the way it did, and I'm just the one guy, that's labeled.
And that's the most recent incident that you had, and that's where some of the language was. What have you learned to try to?
Well, the thing with Mr. Morrissey, I mean, it's reality. I didn't put my hands on him. He didn't put his hands on me, and what.
But I going beyond.
But what going beyond the scope, right? He should have been taken out of the meeting. It's nothing in anywhere in America. If you go to the Senate building and you try to attack a elected official, it's handled.
Well,
I mean,
we got to the point that there was.
You may have your side in the house, and he has admitted that in a city council meeting, we're all adults, Regardless if you like what's going on or you do not like what's going on, you have 5 minutes to speak, and that should be the only time that public should speak. You have former Judge Janice Cole, former county commissioner, who says, I have been a county commissioner for all these years. I've never seen an interruption from the audience before. If you go to a school board meeting, you never see the interruption from the audience before. If you go to a county commissioner meeting, the first and third, you never have interruptions from them before. And so what I'm saying is, when people talk about respectability of the Hertford Town Council, they should show the Hertford Town Council and all its members the same respect that it shows county commissioners, school board meetings, and the town of Windfall. Because that's what it's about. In order to get respect, you have to earn respect, you have to gain respect. And so that's the way that I try to approach it. You came, not knowing whatever the information. I didn't attack you. I didn't say, hey, you a bad guy. I agreed to come to your house. You have me in your house today and I'm sitting down. But some of the things, certainly it's things you can do different. Certainly it's always things, in any thing you can do.
But the question was, if you were placed in that situation,
if I was
Lord forbid,
yeah.
Okay, in the future, how would Councilman Jackson handle that situation?
I think that.
Would you ask the police to intervene?
Well, see that's the problem, right? The problem is that I shouldn't have to. The problem is that it's the mayor's job to control the meeting room. When the guy got interrupted, the sheriff should have got up and took him out of there. It should not have been where that guy was able to get that close to me. And he took the majority of the steps because I only took 3 steps. So it should never be where citizens should be able to get that close to an elected official, especially now in this day and time. So, that's one of the things I've continued to ask, that we've already passed and appropriated for us to get a metal detector. It's needed. But
Mr. Morrissey did not have a
I'm not
weapon that you were aware of.
Mr. Morrissey did not have a weapon that I'm aware of, and that was the only time that me and Mr. Morrissey ever had a bad
So
word.
the jousting was verbal.
Yeah. So and like I said, all of our previous conversations to that point had not been any bad between me and Mr. Morrissey. And I just wish he would have handled it a whole lot differently than he did. But hey, you can't undo the past because, I just feel like I may have not, sometimes when you put yourself in certain situations, you kind of take what comes with the territory. And, other things and other ways that, I have to understand and I have to learn. And my mom beats me up 1,001 times about this. Is just sometimes just let it go. Sometimes you have to let certain situations go. And, I can't say that I would have let that particular situation go, but maybe I should have, in the eyes. And it's a learning experience for me.
Okay.
So,
well, I hope you don't have future learning experiences to that level.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes,
or that you react differently because, obviously that creates a thing that you have to defend. And you much rather talk about the issues than talk about.
I want to do what's best for Hertford.
Okay.
My home.
All right, Councilman Jackson, I really thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now, long, what time is it? It's been a while.
I hope you. Oh my gosh, it is quarter after 1.
About 3 hours.
Yeah. I hope I had enough room on the disc to record everything.
Okay, that's fine.
But I greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much,
you,
sir.
man.
All right, it's good to have you.
Yes, sir.
All right, let me go ahead.
Make sure y'all go out and vote now. I need y'all to go vote. y'all go and vote, right? Y'all already voted, probably. Huh?
We have not voted.
Oh man.